Good morning and welcome to Splendor 2021, a virtual, inclusive international conference organized by Splendor, an educational organization in Bengaluru. Your MCs for today are me, Rama Munukur, and Nidhi Reddy.
Rama Munukur belongs to a family that cherishes and believes in holistic education. She did her MS in Electrical and Computer Engineering from Carnegie Mellon and worked at a few Fortune 500 companies in the US before moving to India to join their manufacturing unit that makes specialty wires. She's an active member of the Young Indian and FICCI Ladies organization and heads the FICCI Coimbatore chapter startup and incubation wing this year. She volunteers on various environmental and educational projects every opportunity she gets.
Nidhi Reddy is pursuing her master's in entrepreneurship and innovation at ANU. She has worked as a student ambassador for the College of Business and Economics. She volunteers her time with children and believes in positively contributing to society. In addition, she is also the marketing intern for Splendor.
Splendor brings together exceptional educators, researchers, and enthusiasts and empowers synergistic collaborations to increase reach, impact, and implementation of creative breakthrough ideas. In this conference, you will meet award-winning delegates working on the National Educational Policy 2020, curriculum design, learning frameworks, activists, published authors, school leaders, teachers, and students. This is a unique opportunity to understand perspectives, brainstorm solutions to challenging problems in your area of work, initiate collaborations and future engagements, and define the future of education in Splendor 2021. This conference is just a start to the many possibilities. Splendor will facilitate multiple meetings and discussions with focus groups to continue the ideations and collaborations evolved from this conference. Make sure to be a part of these conversations and take your learning forward and create an impact. Splendor is looking forward to supporting you in your journey.
We would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors and partners. Thank you to our main sponsors, Efficacy, a biostatistics and statistical programming service provider, and Bluebell School for Integrated Learning, an initiative of the Bluebells Group of Schools, a premier school education provider in Gurugram. A shout out to MVJ Group of Institutions for sponsoring and partnering with us, and Luvia Bakeries for the yummy goodies. Thanks to the partners Jyoti Nivas Autonomous College for supporting us in many ways, Brightside Foundation and Onde Day. Special mention to all our supporters, Yugi Setu, Hari Iyer, Vasudevan Alasengachar, Damodaran Rajalingam, and Arun Padmanabhan. And thank you to the families of the Splendor team for supporting us. Please visit the sponsor booths every day. New QR codes are updated every day in some sponsor booths. Visit all to find the 3 QR codes for the day. Click on them and scan to collect the words of the day. Make one catchphrase with all 3 words and send it to splendor@seedray.com before 11:59 p.m. each day. The first 5 entries and the top 2 catchphrases will win a gift coupon worth ₹500 each. Let's take a moment to go over the Zoom code of conduct and etiquette. Please be kind to each other. Everyone is entitled an opinion. We want a collaboration and not a conflict. We are looking for disruptive ideas and not disruptive meetings. Please stay muted throughout the speaker events. If you have a question, click the raise hand button and you will be called upon at the next available opportunity. Or you can just type your question in the chat box. Please keep your video on, come prepared, be on time. Your interaction and participation will make the session a full success. Now that you know who we are, we would like to know more about you. Please click on the link in the chat box or scan the QR code and take our poll to introduce yourselves. What best describes you? Are you a student, a school student, a college student, an educator? Please click on the option that best describes you. Looks like we have more college students. Okay, looks like a majority of our audience at the moment are college students. A couple of parents, a couple of educators, one researcher, and one school student. We have another 20 seconds to go on the survey. What are you expecting from the conference today? For those of you who will be attending multiple days, what are you hoping to gain from this conference? Perspective? Ideas for future of education? For the movie screening, learning from the panel discussions. Ideas of future of education, insights in education, views on different topics, present my ideas and learn new things. Ideas regarding the future. Taran is written in the chat box. Innovation ideas for future of education. I'm expecting that I will learn about new people and about future of education. Knowledge. Expecting that I will learn about new people and about the future of education. New thinking and learning new. About 20 more seconds on this. Gaining knowledge and experience. Ishan says ideas for future of education. Ishan, I noticed you have your hand raised. Do you want to type the question into the chat box? Innovative ideas in learning. Yesterday started with an address by one of our Seed Ray founders, Gauri Iyer. After that, we had Dr. Harini Nagendra of Azim Premji University give us a provoking thought on sustainability in education and gave us much to think about. Next, we had a fireside chat about accessibility and inclusion, conversations on language, swimming through, and different takeaways on education. So let's see what we have in store for today. Let's start today's activities with a word from our founder, Aparna Bhaskar. It is my privilege to introduce to you Aparna Bhaskar, one of the founders of Sealray. Aparna is an economics graduate who joined hands with Anandi Balakrishnan and Gauri Hari to create Sealray 9 years ago. Aparna is known to be a perfectionist, multitasker, and speed reader with a photographic memory. She loves working with children and seeing them blossom in every way. One of her initiatives, the Giving Tree Project, where volunteers work with the government to teach English as a communication skills, has reached over 400 learners. Apart from this, she was also leading operations for a 100-member team in Project Eklavya that Sealray is partnering on and that aims to promote self-learning among children all over India. A voracious reader herself, she conducts the reading room sessions at Unschool. Aparna is always an active participant in every endeavor. Her co-workers fondly say that it is her attention to detail and immaculate planning that enables them to conduct so many workshops with precision and ease. Aparna, the stage is all yours. Aparna, you're still muted. Can you please unmute yourself?
Thank you, Rama. Thank you for that. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 at Splendor 2021, the virtual inclusive international conference on the future of education hosted by Silray Learning Spaces. Hello, I am Aparna, co-founder of Silray Learning Spaces. It's great to see you, and I'm honored to share Splendor with each and every one of you. I am a passionate learner and have an abiding interest in working with children and supporting their learning journeys. My dear friend Gauri introduced me to Anandi and Silray. My first engagement at Silray was making 400 masks for a workshop that we conducted at an international school. And so my journey with Silray began. Silray has nurtured and fired my passion from the day I joined and I met my close friends. We at Silray consciously practice the learning philosophy that we so passionately believe in. Each Silray member, every one of us, has the opportunity to explore, experiment, and learn what we want and how we want. I joined the art and craft department and moved on to write content, take sessions, train facilitators, and manage operations at Silray. Silray has certainly empowered me and given my passion wings. Silray supports each learner's journey with resources, empathetic facilitators, who are trained to support and empower every learner. Silray is a truly collaborative experience for adults and children alike. Anandi introduced us to computers and software, Windows, Google Drive, Excel sheets, long before its application in education were popular. We were ready for the digital transformation when it came. Technology has certainly helped us plan and execute many projects here at Silray with minute detailing. And Splendor is the jewel in our crown. Among the many initiatives that Silray has taken, the Giving Tree is our effort to reach out to learners in government and low-income private schools. We take sessions to help them with English as a language of communication. This is a purely voluntary project. Silray has worked with schools both in the pre- and post-pandemic years. We have built an enthusiastic band of volunteer teachers who have helped kids learn and communicate in a supportive and friendly environment. We are fortunate to be associated with a few local schools here in Bangalore, where we go and take classes once a week. After COVID, with the support of like-minded organizations who provided a few of the school children with tabs, Silray's TGT was able to continue to reach out to all the children with weekly online sessions. This has reinforced our belief that learning is not limited by physical space. Technology can be creatively used to ensure that learning is possible, interesting, and impactful in difficult times as well. We at Silray have received a lot of love and affection from the kids and appreciation from their teachers, as the program has kept the children interested in learning and in school. The kids look forward to meeting the Silray aunties and uncles, annas and akkas every week. Silray's curriculum is directed towards learning the English language to communicate, to read, and to express yourself, so that kids can avail of a variety of opportunities that are out there. This is an effort to level the playing field for all children, eliminating social and economic barriers. I would like to thank the volunteers and our staff at Silray who have shared their time and their energy helping children learn in this fun environment. Silray has started an alternative school, which is currently purely online, called Unschool. We encourage our children to unlimit, unleash, and unlearn. Unschool is working with children, empowering them to explore, to question, and to learn for themselves. Our content writers and facilitators are looking for new and interesting and creative ways to present concepts in an interdisciplinary way. Unschool pushes everyone to ask and investigate and learn independently. We look forward to Unschool growing with strong and independent learners and like-minded facilitators. Thank you for your belief in our philosophy and our goal to make learning available, engagement, and relevant to everyone. Splendor 2021 has renewed friendships and connections as we reached out to old and new members as we worked to host this conference. Every Silray member has enthusiastically spread the word of Splendor, reached out to their contacts, to family and friends, and helped us connect with some amazing people working in the field of education. I would like to express our gratitude to each and every member of the Silray family for working tirelessly, for giving their time and energy to make Splendor 21 a truly international, diverse, inclusive, and accessible experience. Splendor 2021 has made it possible for Silray to meet and connect with so many wonderful people who are working in the field of education. We are honored by their presence and inspired by their stories and experiences. They are sharing their passion, their experiences, and their vision with us during this conference. We look forward to leveraging these discussions to take meaningful action on the ideas discussed here. This is the start of truly many beautiful collaborations to come. So, what's lined up for us at Splendor today? All learning is relevant in the right context and when it influences people and impacts the environment around us. How do we nurture a learning system that respects these relationships and keeps children connected to them as they learn? We are meeting a school leader who just puts that philosophy into practice every day. Children ask a lot of questions. Why should I learn this? Why me? Why now? Why is it useful? Why? Do you agree? When we show the relevance of learning, we are more inclined to pay attention and learn. Given time and space to explore, children can find connections between concepts across subjects, and they can understand the impact that one action or a decision can have on individuals, communities, and the environment. Learning is a truly multi-directional and interdependent process. And as educators, we should support learners as they explore and find these connections between ideas and their applications for themselves. How do we encourage our children to be leaders and not just passive followers? There is a spark in every child, and it must be nurtured in the right environment. How can we show children that an idea can grow into a self-supporting enterprise with the right support and the right direction? We will meet someone who believes that children should be introduced to the idea of an entrepreneurship, the idea of creating, innovating, and leading the way in every sphere of life. What are the skills, the structures, the attitudes that we need to develop as we set forth on the learning journey we are targeting towards 2030? How do we update our facilities, our training strategies, our approaches to learning? We will learn what is being done and what is in store for us. We will be meeting some innovators, administrators, teachers with ideas that they have put in practice, their experiences, and their plans for the future. Children are the center of this entire education system. What do the children think about all this? What do they want? They want to be heard, and here at Splendor, they will be heard loud and clear. How does one volunteer? What impact can volunteering have on society? We have a movie screening from an organization that works for inclusion in society with the support of many like-minded individuals. As you can see, we are having a multi-sensory experience at Splendor today. Do see, listen, ponder, interact in all the events that are lined up for you. I am excited and eager to hear from all our speakers, aren't you? I welcome Rama and Nidhi to take over the stage and start the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aparna. Next up in today's agenda is the keynote address by Dr. Kavita Bajpai on relationship-driven learning. Dr. Kavita Bajpai, director of the International School of Thrissur, is a passionate educationist and has always been considered a progressive leader. In her 20 years of experience under various leadership positions, she has executed training workshops and professional development programs in national and international curriculums. Dr. Kavita Bajpai has worked on heritage conservation for the past 12 years, along with developing an awareness program for children so that they can understand and take pride in our rich and varied heritage. She is also an executive member of Om Puri Foundation, where she works with weavers and artisans communities. Femina magazine in 2020 recognized her as one of the 50 most influential women of the country. Kavita loves spending time assisting special needs children to make them independent and confident. She is a spontaneous orator and is known for her child-centric approach, skills, team building, quality of work, and her calm and pleasant demeanor. She says, and I quote, I feel proud and blessed being a part of the educators community as they make life truly meaningful and magical. Audience, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box or click on the raise hand button and we will address them at the end of Dr. Kavita's speech. We invite Dr. Kavita Bajpai to give us the keynote address. In order to leave ample time for questions at the end, we will let you know when you come close to the end of your time by announcing a 5-minute heads up. Stage is yours.
So, very good morning, everyone. I hope I'm clearly audible. And you all have to pardon me with my hoarse voice today because I think the ongoing viral has affected me very badly. So, but yes, this is one opportunity which I certainly did not want to miss. So, first of all, thank you so much to the organizers for considering me for this particular slot. And I actually would like to pick up my words from where Aparna has left. She has been talking a lot about child-centric education, creating the right kind of the environment, creating, the environment where children are prompt to ask questions, or rather, it has to be more of in-basket method where children are asking questions and getting the answers and exploring the answers. So I think this is exactly what one is supposed to do. And especially in today's time, it is more important because COVID has shown us a lot of highs and lows where we realize that it is just not only the education, but also the connect with education is very important. And when I say connect, it is the mental, physical, and emotional connect. And when you talk about mental, physical, and emotional aspect, then certainly you are talking about relationship. And this is what exactly today I'm going to talk about, the emergent curriculum, which is the need of the hour, but the main key of the main ingredient of the same is relationship driven emergent curriculum. So I have a small presentation and majority of the statements I have written there, which I would be reading and just adding on a couple of case studies to it. And I would certainly like to pick up few questions towards the end if you have any. But I want you all to constantly ponder upon one thing, and we can certainly discuss towards the end of this presentation, that what has been your experience with relationship driven environment. First of all, have you ever experienced it? And then how it has affected you. When I say relationship driven environment, I'll just tell you in a very simplified language. When you were in school, you must be having, a teacher who was your favorite, or you were the favorite of that teacher. How did you perform in that particular subject? How do you remember that teacher today? How that teacher has impacted you? Or maybe as an educator, when you started your journey, how people have mentored you, helped you, and supported you. So there have been a lot of relationship what people experiences, and especially in school arena, there are a lot. So let me just take one after the other and let us talk about it. So yes, the need of creating a flexible and relationship-driven learning environment. Why flexible? Because every individual is unique, and celebrating the uniqueness of every individual is something which is required when we talk about the various attributes and virtues, and more so the holistic learning. So yes, here we go. The next slide, please. So what is a learning environment? So learning environment is just not about the school or the classroom or the peer group or the teachers or the resources, but I think this is the amalgamation of everything. So it starts from the physical locations, the physical environment, the context, and the culture in which the students learn. The location, of course, since students, they learn in a wide variety of settings, such as outside the school locations, outdoor environments, as well as inside an indoor environment. So everything matters. So when we say learning, learning doesn't restrict itself to the school environment. So for any child, the overall environment matters, and this is exactly is called, or the entire ecosystem is called, the learning environment. This term also encompasses the culture of a school or a class, its presiding ethos and characteristics, including how individuals interact with and treat one another, as well as the ways in which teachers may organize in educational settings to facilitate learning. So that's a part of the school side. Same way at home. what kind of the environment a child experiences, how people address each other, how respectful, loving, affectionate, and caring they are, how much space they have been given to express themselves. Everything matters, and that's how the entire learning environment for the holistic learning or development, a holistic learning environment matters. Next, please. So, what are the components of an effective learning environment? So, there are few. Number first is the characteristics of the learner. As I said in the beginning, also, and even Aparna said it, that every individual is unique. And celebrating the uniqueness of every child is very important, and that makes your learning environment child centric. So, understanding the characteristics of the learner is very important. What kind of the learner he or she is, whether it is auditory, spatial, or visual learner, or maybe kinetic learner. So you just have to figure it out, the type of learner and learning abilities. Also the behavior side of the child or anybody whom you are considering the learner. Then the goals for teaching and learning, that's very important. Goal setting and then achieving one after the other milestones. Because at the end of the day, if you say a 5-year-old child or a 10-year-old child or a 15-year-old child across the globe more or less know the similar things. It's only the developmental milestones which are different. The way, the pattern the child learns, that is different. And that makes a child more confident or less confident. That makes a child clear with the concept or confused with the concept, very confident or not at all confident, or for that matter, someone who is collaborative by nature, someone who's kind of aloof by nature. So that also matters. So setting up the goal setting, setting up the goals, then setting up your milestones, your rubrics are very important. Then the activities that will support learning. So the thing is, activities is just not about pertaining to the topic. I have been an ardent endorser, or I believe in the endorsement of the interdisciplinary learning. And when you talk about interdisciplinary learning, it just cannot be one subject oriented. So when you're talking about what are the activities or the selection of the activities, how to make it so that they are best supporting the learning, it has to carry the aspects, it has to carry the attributes. So it is not like, for example, if you're talking about geometry, your objective just cannot be teaching the child about the parallel lines or the angles and etc. Even your objective should be making a child clear, confident, reflective, and someone who's able to, extend the similar knowledge to the peer group. This is the objective, what you look at. And then the choice and the selection of activities should be done. So it just cannot happen based upon what the topic is. It has to happen based upon what environment you're creating and what output you're expecting from a student. And I personally believe that you have to prepare your children for the unseen. You have to prepare your children for the future. Make them global citizens. So even in my school, any child who comes in pre-K or K1 or K2 or grade 1, that is not that I'm admitting that child for today. I have to create, I have to build, I have to nurture this child in such a way so that after 15 years from now, wherever the world would be moving, the child will have sustainability. The child will have confidence. The child will have knowledge to conquer it all at the global level. So I think the approach has to be highly futuristic and towards the unseen. Now, another thing is the assessment. That's very, very important because assessment strategies are something like we just cannot be restricting the entire teaching and learning with the pen and paper. And I personally feel that the assessment strategies has to be planned not to assess good, bad, high, low, or the rating or the grading. Rather, it has to be assessed on the lines whether the teacher was successful imparting the correct knowledge, whether the child was able to grasp it, where the child was earlier and where the child is today. What is the goal setting for that particular child? Where we want this child to reach, and what are the tools and techniques to use to identify the best of the aspects of that child and the strength areas of that child, as well as what are the weaker areas where the child needs some hand holding. So the assessment is again, it has to be based upon a lot of tools and techniques. Very, very important. And that is the best measure and it drives the learning process in the correct direction. Then the culture that infuses the learning environment. As I said in the beginning also, creating the culture or developing the culture rather is something which is very important. So yes, these are the components of effective learning, which I feel we can start building upon the emerging curriculum or the emerging curriculum on that. But yes, it matters because learning environment is the foundation from where you develop the interest, you develop the confidence, you develop the the so-called 21st century skills. You name it, and everything will be followed by giving a right kind of the learning environment to the students. Next slide, please. So yes, if you're talking about cultures, if you can simply see that there are a lot of things which has to be taken care, into the consideration, which I have already spoken. So it is about learners' characteristics, the content, skills, learner support, resources, assessment, planning the right kind of the resources, the right kind of the activities, the right kind of the tools, technology, and the techniques and strategies for the assessment, and above all, goal setting. So that's very, very important. Yes. Next, please. Why learning environment is important? I'm just talking about learning environment, why it is important. So this is my all-time favorite quote. The cure for freedom is curiosity, but there is no cure for curiosity. And this is exactly is what you have to create the learning environment, which is interactive in nature, which is supportive in nature, which which gives the confidence, which gives the support, and which nurtures the students in such a direction where they feel that yes, they can voice out, they can question, they can explore, they can inquire, and they can get the answers to. Next, please. So the fundamentals. What are the fundamentals of creating such environments? So this is, and why do we need to create it? That's very important. So number one, the education based on interrelationships. This is a main fundamental feature for creating the learning environment. Number two, considering the child as a protagonist, collaborator, and communicator. So it means the child's reaction needs to be observed, needs to be given the due, response. One has to collaborate with the child. It means you have to involve the child in the process of the learning, and the communication is another thing which is very, very important and which has to be a two-way communication. Then the teacher as partner, nurturer, guide, and research. Of course, when we say collaborator, it means the child is collaborating with the teachers. It helps. So the teacher has for knowledge sharing. Then the teacher has to act as a collaborator. Nurturer, because yes, you the future of the child is in your hands. Guide, because you have seen the world little more than the child. And certainly you can bring in your perspective and you can guide the child towards the right direction. And research, because another thing John Dewey had said long back, and that is, I think we all would agree to that, that if we teach the children of today with the techniques of yesterday, then we are going to rob them tomorrow. So exactly, a teacher, we all, as an educator, we all have to be researcher. We have to figure out where the world is moving, what changes have come. We have to keep ourselves abreast with all the changes and upgraded with that. And then accordingly, we have to deliver what is required in the present times and what would be required in the future. The environment as a third feature. I've been constantly talking about creating the correct learning environment because the child, the teacher, this relationship gets enhanced, more productive when environment is treated as a third educator. So if I may ask someone, when I say third educator, so one is the educator, the teacher who's teaching. Second one, I skipped. Third one, I'm saying the environment. Can someone just write in the chat box maybe like which educator I'm talking about at number two? Yeah, thank you so much, Ananti, because you have written parents. Yes, because when we talk about the environment, as I said right in the beginning, it is just not about the school, it is just not about the home, it is collaboratively both. So it is exactly the parents, so the educator who's imparting the knowledge in the school, the learning and development, who's responsible for the learning and development in the school, then the parents and the family environment, the family members, and of course the environment as a third teacher. Next is long-term projects as vehicle of learning. I said in one of my earlier slides also, creating the and selecting and choosing the right kind of the resources and activities is very important. And based upon that, you can create the projects which takes the entire learning in a different direction. So as a vehicle of learning, there's the long-term project. So when I say long-term project, it's very simple. Like, you know, I don't know about the experiences what you all are having, but I remember when I was in school, project for me means either a 3D model or something, which was over and above. And majority of the time, it used to come as a additional workload. I would certainly use this word, and I'm using this word very carefully, workload. I never enjoyed being a part of those projects because somewhere I felt that this part I have already done last month. Why this has been given to me as a project now, and what will I do creating a periscope or a kaleidoscope, which I have understood the concept and I have seen it earlier in the past also. So, I may be wrong with my approach, but I always feel that these are just a short term thing. But when we talk about the long term projects, so for example, teaching children about expressions, asking them to do journal writing, diary entry. Now, it's a long term project, and you can inculcate this as a habit of the child. So, even if it is a personal trip that he's making or she's making with the parents, with the family, after coming back, just writing a journal about it, what all the child has seen. Maybe the child is traveling in the deep, in the forest areas with the parents and could see that some plants were not as green. The same plant was showing light green and dark green leaves. All those observations can be written, and based upon those observations the child can create a questionnaire that can go to the teacher, and teacher can clear all the curiosity of the child. So basically it is just a very very basic example I'm talking about. Even the children who cannot write, I'm talking about pre-k, k1, k2, that is the kindergarten children, at least they should be able to express themselves through drawing. Now that drawing should be beyond your judgment. Like if they have drawn mother, father, and a baby, but no one is supposed to laugh at it. That how it is looking and how it is appearing, because this is how the child's assumption is, and this is the best of the effort what child has done. So basically, it's about supporting the child and trying to understand how and what the child is going to communicate, convey, and express is very important. And the long-term projects can be based upon their communication and collaboration. Coming to documentation as communication, that's very, very important. So as I said, journal writing, diary entry, creating the drawings, maybe, just putting up, creating a collage of whatever the experiences has been. Or maybe it was just a track the child has gone and just picked up, say, 10 different kind of the leaves. And now this is again a documentation. So the documentation, and sometimes even how you're conducting the classes, those pictures, those little videos are very important, which you can keep as you can preserve it. And maybe at the time of when you're having a two-way or a three-way conference, when your children are also participating in this student-led conference, and that could be shown. That would come as a surprise to the children, but that would be a long-term memory as well as a documentation with you, with the parents, with the child, how the learning process took place. Because I think nowadays, this mobile facility, or schools do provide tabs, school do provide assistance when you request them to, you wish to capture a particular learning process. And if not, I'm sure if you are coming up with this idea, no one would say no to that. So you have to figure it out, how it happens and how you have to preserve it, document it. Because there is a very beautiful concept called making learning visible, MLV. And that is entirely based upon documentation, because until unless you make the process of learning visible, the everyone enjoys going back down the memory lane and understand like how the learning has happened. So that becomes an important document for the recap activities as well. And of course, the real life experiences is something I strongly believe in, because even the abstract learning can be done with the real life experiences. It is just about it's just about that you have to think like how do you want to bring it on. Like for example, if you ask a child of grade 1 why numbers are important. Now, why numbers are important, I'm just talking about it, why numbers are important, and the child is listening or maybe giving one or two examples also. How about if one day we decide that the corridor where the entire grade 1 passes through, we hide all the numbers? The bus numbers are hidden. Every number, whichever the three numbers or whatever numbering you have done in the school, it all have been covered with a simple sheet of paper. And ask children, what difference do you see? And when they say, okay, the numbers are not there. Okay, so what if the numbers have never been there? Find out the level of difficulty. Now tell why numbers are important, or why, so this is basically a very straight question. You are again taking them through the experiential learning, and that turns into a real life experience. So that is, these are a couple of fundamentals. You can add from your end also. You can bring in, some more with your experiences, but these are the basics which are really important. Next slide, please. Yes, I wanted to unmute myself. Yes, done. Now, how does the pedagogy of relationship work? I've been talking about creating the environment. I've been talking about the fundamentals of it. I've been talking about why it is important. And I've been talking about, the three educators. Now, how it works. So if you look at it, in the school perspective, a parent teacher is one community, student teacher is another community, teacher teacher is the third community. So when you talk about parent teacher interaction, it has to be very patient, cordial, respectful, clear, transparent, and to the point. That's very important. Because what happens is, as a parent, sometimes we become over possessive and we, start overreacting on certain things. And suddenly, rather than listening and understanding the system of a school or the mindset of a teacher or the rubrics, what has been said, we start reacting to it, or rather understanding the whole scenario, we start reacting to it. My humble suggestion has always been to all the parents: be patient, be because no school or no educator is sitting there to harm your child or to spoil your child or to damage the future of the child. It could be the difference of opinion, certain creative differences which can be sorted out. You may be having fantastic ideas, you can come forward and suggest, and I'm sure nowadays schools are very flexible and open to learn, so they can certainly accommodate. If not, then they can tell you their limitations pertaining to that. But be very patient, be very cordial and respectful, and try to understand that you are handling your own child, wherein the school talks about the whole community, the student community. So that's very, very important. Coming to the next thing is student and teacher. Of course, sorry, one more thing I missed upon. So that was the one side of the parent. Now let us talk about the teacher's side. So even to teachers, I always say, do not feel agitated. Do not feel, that you have been framed or blamed or for something. I think parents have all the rights to ask questions, to know the whereabouts, to know how the progress and the areas, the weak areas, the strong areas, as well as to opine. Because ultimately, these children, they belong to them, right? So, wherein you are there to facilitate the teaching and learning process. So, I think it has to be very, very cordial. That's very important. Now, coming to the next thing, that how does the pedagogy of relationship work in the student and teacher interaction? Again, it has to be very, very cordial. The key word is being cordial and respectful, whether it is teachers to the students or students to teachers. Apart from that, it has to be a very open kind of the conversation where the child feels that the due space is given, where the child feels that yes, one can express, voice, question, and opine. Wherein the teacher should also respect the views of the children, should be able to explain what is going wrong or what is right, and above all, there has to be very fine lines drawn when it comes to be a discipline, when it comes to be friendly, when it comes to be a friend, philosopher, and guide. And I think this is a role what a teacher has to play. But certainly with the children, the age group, the overall approach can differ. Coming to teacher and teacher interaction, that is all the more very important, because ultimately it's your peer group. I mean, you cannot be speaking about ill to your own colleague in front of others, or you cannot be insulting or not listening to your own colleague. So I think being cordial, being humble, being respectful is everywhere. It is a common factor. Of course, to be able to listen to someone, being patient, to be able to understand, a patient hearing, a clear understanding, and as well as clear, your putting your thoughts also very clearly is very important. When I say half of the things may sound a little bookish, but believe you me, in terms of the school, it does not. Maybe in corporate, it could be a bookish approach. Corporate sectors. I mean, I'm not just being accusing the sectors for their environment or something, but I'm just saying that in different sectors, it could be a different approach. But in schools, creating, maintaining, and endorsing transparency is not as difficult because ultimately the school and the parents, they both are the equal stakeholders in the growth and development of any student. And I think that's the ultimate goal, what they all work towards it. So that's very, very important. And children, they come very raw to us. And, nurturing them is something which is our responsibility, whether we are the parents or we are the educators. So the relationship with each other matters a lot because that brings a lot of, sync in the entire environment, and that becomes more peaceful and progressive. Next slide, please. Once it is said that what children learn does not follow as an automatic result from what is taught. Rather, it is in large part due to the children's own doing as a consequence of their activities and our resources. Relationships are at the very heart of the child centric philosophy. That philosophy is reflected in an environment that encircles the child with three teachers or protagonists. As we said, the first teacher, parent, takes on the role of active partner and guide in the education of the child. The second is the classroom teacher or the teachers who are teaching the subjects. Often working in pairs, the classroom teachers assume the role of a researcher and intentionally engages children in meaningful work and conversation. And the third teacher is the environment, a setting designed to be not only functional but also beautiful and reflective of the child's learning. So it is a child's relationship with parent, teacher, and environment that ignites the true learning. And this quote, I wanted to read it as full because I believe in every single word written on this slide. Next slide, please. Emergent curriculum. Emergent curriculum requires that teachers actively seek out and chase the interest of the children. So, as we have been talking a lot about being child centric, so this kind of the teaching environment demands a high degree of trust in the teacher's creative abilities and envisions an image of the child as someone actively seeking knowledge. It is a perspective that turns structured curriculum with predetermined outcomes on its head. Given the diversity of the children we teach, accepting a canned recipe for teaching evaluation assessment is problematic at best. So this is basically, again, the reading was very important because this is the kind of a recipe what I talk about for the emerging curriculum, that a teacher has to be very progressive by nature, should be, keep very open to the various ideas and thoughts. And innovation is the key here. The confidence is the key here. And the creativity is the key here. So a teacher has to find out, because every year you cannot be teaching with the same methodology to your children. So first of all, a teacher has to observe the children around. The teacher has to figure it out, the strength and the gray areas as the majority. Then the teacher has to figure out the strength and the gray areas of each and every child, or the areas of handholding. And then accordingly, the entire delivery pattern has to be designed. When this happens, this is called emerging curriculum. And emerging curriculum, the teacher is always at the center of it. Though it is child-centric, but creating it or converting it into a child-centric approach, the teacher has to be in the center because she is the one, or as a fulcrum, because she or he is the one who would be designing the method of delivery, execution, and learning. Because each child we teach is unique, requiring us to use our own judgment instead of rules to guide our teaching practices. To teach well, educators must ensure that creativity and innovation are always present. So I think we as a teacher, we come up with even a huge responsibility. And again, this pandemic scenario has taught us all very well that being, how to be more creative, how to be more innovative, because we all, I think each one, I take each one of the educators as a COVID warrior too, because they also have come up with various tools, various innovations and ideas, which brought the interest back of the students in the learning process. Otherwise, there has been a lull moment. There has been a moment where we found that nothing is moving, but gradually everyone has got accustomed to the entire system. And ultimately, the learning process did not get affected that much, what we all have assumed right in the beginning. So kudos to all the educators around, kudos to all the parents who supported, or now they have started actually understanding that the role of the educator is very important. So I'm really hoping that in future, the question answers between the parent and teacher would convert into the collaboration that how to bring the best for their child. Next slide, please. Community and parent school relationship. So learn through making connections between things, concepts, and experiences, interacting with other people and surrounding environment. Very important. Comprehensive integration program, which involves meetings between parents, child, and teacher. As I said in the beginning, the three-way conferences between the parent, child, and teacher is very important. Keeping the child in the center while discussing about it in a very positive manner is very, very important. Parents need to be directly involved in the observation and documentation process through their feedback about their work. It becomes all the more relevant during COVID scenario with online teaching learning exercises. For example, how the child acts in the home setting, which allows teacher to build a more complete image of the child. Because when the teaching is happening, when the sessions are going on, what has been the behavior of a child, whether the child was equally disciplined or the discipline was somewhere which was lacking. The child was not able to concentrate, was not able to sit at one place, or maybe it was constantly when the class was on was fidgeting with one or the other thing. I think these are the small little feedback which should go. That also will help in define the way, the line of action for the educators when these children are coming back to school. Parents, grandparents, and commitment participation is important by volunteering to any particular experience they have. And I always endorse this philosophy, and I always ask the schools, whomsoever I have addressed till date, that start involving your parents, start involving the grandparents. Celebrating grandparents, inviting them, honoring them is not enough. Invite them for the storytelling session. Talk to them about, the mythological facts, what they have been learning, various, the places which have one or the other stories. It's not that they have to believe in that, but they have to share. These are the verbal heritage which is traveling from one generation to other, and their involvement is very, very important. Moving to next, please. Learner educator relationship, I have already spoken about it. It's about the student as well as the educators. The student also wants to feel important and they want to understand because they believe a lot in their educators. If you go back to your school days, young days, or your own children's days, where when you talk anything about the teacher, I think they are the first one to come in defense of them. It means the teacher and the learner, the relationship is very beautiful, very pious, very transparent. So a teacher should also respect this, and accordingly, it has to be created. Next slide, please. Educator-educator relationship. Yes, as I said, to create the more effective environment, it is very important because having peers that you can learn from, collaborate with, and lean on during tough times is essential. I think once again, pandemic has been the biggest teacher in this regard to all of us. We started valuing the presence of the people around. We started valuing their suggestions. We started valuing, their inputs. And I seriously hope and wish that this pattern continues. Next, please. The creating, developing, and using physical space of the school. So K-12 setup is a very demanding setup because you have to create the setup based upon various age groups. And when you're creating it depending upon various age groups, then you have to be very careful, like how the nursery has to be designed, how the kindergarten has to be there, what has to be the role play area. For a little older children, what would be the common area where they can come and they can bring out all their innovation and creativity. Then it also has to be, what is an open space where children are going and expressing themselves. So I think the school should have lot of aspects, and accordingly they should be, creating these spaces. Just not creating the classroom and one very nice, the auditorium, fancy cafeteria is not enough. I think children, they come to school to find out their own space. They belong to a classroom, they belong to certain spaces, they need the space where they can express themselves. So that's very important. So in my school, we have created a wall, and though it's a new school, I mean, in 2019 we have started with fantastic reviews and fantastic numbers what we are getting. But based upon the requirement, we would keep on extending that wall, and that wall, and there we have some sand bed, there we have some, the very raw material kind of stuff, which are non-toxic, biodegradable, and child-friendly material, and we allow children to express themselves whenever they feel like. So sometimes, and our school up to grade 4 doesn't follow the bell ringing and all those things. So it is basically a mother teacher kind of a concept, and teachers, they bring the children out once a day and allow them to express themselves with this simple clay play, or the mud play, or a water play, or a crayons, or drawing on the wall, or footprinting, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, and so creating the right kind of the physical space is very important, because the belongingness, the accountability, then only it comes in the head of the child. And then of course, it has to be very interactive, your learning spaces, as well as depending upon a multi-sensory environment, because that's very important when you talk about creating the holistic development, the physical, emotional, mental development you talk about, then the multisensory environment creation is equally important. So yeah, interactive and multisensory is something which is, I would like each one of you to take it up. And if you're already doing it, then fantastic. Keep it up. Next slide, please. So I think I have a lot to speak, and still I have a lot in my mind, because this is one topic I love to speak, I love to create, and this is an ever evolving topic, because emergent curriculum itself is such a progressive uh, the topic. And when you talk about relationships, so relationship is something which is there to stay forever. So that's all from my end, but believe you me, this is not enough. This is what I am saying, and I'm sure you must be doing, and you can do much more beyond that. The only agenda should be that yes, relationship matters, and your curriculum should be emerging by nature, which should be relationship driven, because if the environment is healthy, environment is conducive, environment is innovative, environment is inviting, then I'm sure the learning can never be stopped, neither for the students, nor for the educators, and nor for the parents. That's all from my side. Anyone, any question, please feel free to ask. I'll try my best to answer. Any question, please? I'm just trying to check my chat box. So Fatima's question, is it to everyone or it is to me? What shall I go ahead with the answer? Oh, thank you, Ananji. Okay, I could see a couple of remarks here and two questions. So, what is unique about relationship-driven learning? Relationship-driven learning brings the confidence, first of all, because it brings a sense of belongingness. It brings the sense which says that you are important. And I think the moment we feel that yes, we are wanted, we are important, and we are a part of the system, the automatically the learning becomes very positive by nature. So it's about creating the vibes of learning or the long-term learning, as well as it's about instilling the confidence, the long-term confidence as well. So that is the biggest advantage, and there are many other advantages attached to it. So once, if you wish, you can just go through this PPT once again, and that will tell you that there have been a lot of areas, very small little areas, but if given some importance to it, can bring a lot of difference.
Thank you so much, Kavita Bajpai. We would be taking the questions during the interaction round.
Sure.
We'll be moving on to our next session. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next topic for today is education and entrepreneurship. While many colleges have incorporated entrepreneurial training into the regular curriculum, this is still a fairly unexplored concept in schools. But aren't school-age kids known for their unconventional solutions and out-of-the-box thinking? So how do we nurture this entrepreneurial spirit in school-age kids? Mr. Razi Abbas is here to tell us his ideas on that. Razi Abbas started his entrepreneurial journey at the tender age of 16. Now, armed with a master's in entrepreneurship and innovation management, he has been working on research-driven initiatives towards plugging the gaps in the early stage startup ecosystem. His vision is to enable communities to be empowered through entrepreneurship, micro incubators being the solution of the same. Razi has an immense passion for community building and social re-engineering, answering the call of humanity as and when necessary. He was instrumental in devising multiple solutions for COVID management in the city of Bengaluru. Over the years, Razi Abbas has gathered experience working as a startup consultant, helping various entrepreneurs take a step closer to their dreams. He excels in understanding the ideation to execution journey of any startup and aims to provide the right resources for the right innovations through his new venture, 22 Bricks. Audience, if you have any questions, please to put them in the chat box. Mr. Razi Abbas, over to you. We will give you a 3-minute warning when the time is coming to a close. Thank you.
Hi, good morning to everyone present here. I would like to thank Silre for inviting me here in this prestigious conference on future of education, Splendor. And I would like to thank Aparna ma'am and so for all of the work, and Ananti ma'am and all of you for bringing me here. So without further delay, I'd like to get on with what we're here for. If I can just have my slides on, if that's possible. So education and entrepreneurship is something that I've learned to I've come to realize that it's something very unique for a lot of people. The reason being, entrepreneurship is seen as a means of empowerment in general, and bringing that into the space of education is something that I have been working to figure out if it's happening, and if it is, then to what extent. So I would like to can I just change the slide? So right now, when you talk about education, the system today. So I've been in Josephite for about 16 years. And I've done my BBM from SJCC, done my master's from London, did my schooling in Joseph. So I've seen a diverse amount of curriculum-based learning that has really brought us to where we are today. However, when we talk about education, it is more about theoretical learning. It's more about you need to pass your exams. It's more about if you don't score good, you don't get into good colleges. It's more about which college are you getting into, and based on that, you're given that social acceptance and so and so. Now I feel that obviously the students have evolved. They're way quicker mentally, intellectually than the teachers itself right now. Like I'm talking about, when you talk about LKG, UKG, I know a lot of teachers who are really surprised that, look, this kid did this, and emotionally, intellectually, and so and so. So our generations are heading towards a very heightened form of learning, which is more application based. Correct. So coming from a background of entrepreneurship myself, I've seen that many people are good at thinking and bringing out great ideas, but what they lack is skills and the ability to transform them to reality. Bringing entrepreneurship into the field of education is something that has always been a need. But now, coming to the NEP part, when we talk about the national education policy or new education policy in terms of trying to incorporate a more practical application-based learning. So there will be a lot of debates about whether it's good, bad. That is a separate discussion. However, a few key points that I would like to highlight that really make a lot of sense and that are of progress in the step of transforming or reforming education is the multiple entry exit policy. Coming to the whole aspect of application-based learning, the importance given to skill development, importance given to empowering the learners and the teachers, right? And trying to change the way the curriculum is designed, so and so. There are multiple things happening across the country today to incorporate the transition from the current education policy to a new education policy, correct? And in this, there have been multiple discussions that we've been having where how much of this, so I'm not a expert in curriculum, I'm not an expert in teaching, I'm not an expert in how people should learn, but I come into the point where how can people apply what they've learned, right? So when it comes to that, I feel that NEP is a great opportunity for all of us to really take this time to reflect on how much of education in entrepreneurship can be integrated and infused in our daily curriculum. So where I'm coming from is that we've seen that, if you're in eighth grade, you're learning to pass your board exam for 10th, or if you're in 11th grade, then you're learning, you're working to get good marks in your 12th. And if you're in your second or third year of bachelor's, I'm talking about non-medical. Okay, so bachelor's, now it's going to be 4 years, but yeah, just to give you context of today, you're learning and trying hard to write your maybe the final exam of getting good GPAs and so and so, correct? I feel like we're in a rat race for no reason. Okay. And being very honest with you, and I'm being candid here, that I feel like at any given point, if you're going to be rushing to achieve 1% more than your friend so that you can get that seat, and your friend, I mean, statistically, the friend shouldn't get it, we are all in that race. And I feel like that race has really corrupted the intellect that we as a young diaspora of this country can achieve. We have the capacity to fulfill, capacity to achieve way more than what any other country in the world can, because we are the youngest country per capita overall, that we are today the youngest country in the world, correct? So we have the maximum number of young youth or young individuals that are coming into the mainstream in terms of education. And so I'm 26 and I'm here talking to you. Am I even qualified to be here? I don't know. Do I have perspective? Yes. So I'm here to give you a perspective on how NEP as a opportunity, or the implementation of NEP as an opportunity plus entrepreneurship in education, how can they all come together? So can I just go to the next slide? So the integration, so my slides will not have a lot of information, for the reason that, I know that a lot of us have got a lot of slides from our classes, and, it's more about getting perspective, as I said. So entrepreneurship and incubation is something that we really need to understand as a concept. So coming to entrepreneurship and incubation, so I covered the current education, what's happening, the NEP as an opportunity, and education and entrepreneurship is incubation and entrepreneurship is something that all of you need to understand. So when I go and say I set up incubators for a living, people think I'm setting up the medical incubators. I mean, as funny as it sounds, I have been in situations where, like, okay, so what is the size of the incubator? How many babies can fit? And I'm like, no, it's one baby at a time. I'm like, okay, and I don't know how to really come to a point where I'm like, I have to explain to people that incubation is the need of the hour. So today we see great incubators in the startup ecosystem, taking Bangalore as a hub. There are multiple VCs, multiple incubators, accelerators. There is a lot of support available, for entrepreneurship and innovation in India altogether, right? And incubation is a vehicle that is used to bring and integrate all of the resources into one place, correct? That is just for you to understand incubation in its real sense, right? When it comes to entrepreneurship. So incubation is a practice or a safe space for entrepreneurs to explore their talents, discover their abilities, and fulfill their potential, right? And over a period of time, we've seen that the barrier of entry to incubators today is a lot. Okay, I mean, I'm talking because we work with entrepreneurs or startups that are looking for support. Not really funding altogether. It could be mentorship, it could be guidance, it could be resources, it could be anything. It could be office space, it could be get me access to another country and things like that. So an incubator does that, right? But for an incubator to accept you today, you need to have a first paying customer. Now tell me, like, I'm sure there are a lot of young entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs on this, in the conference. How many of you have a first paying customer? Right? Or even if you have a first paying customer, how scalable is your business? I'm sure a lot of you would have Instagram accounts where you're selling your products, correct? Yes, first paying customer, check. But is it scalable? You don't know. Is it sustainable? You don't know. So there are so many barriers for you to qualify to get into the existing incubators, correct? So where we are coming from is that entrepreneurship is an engine of empowerment, where incubation is the home where all of this happens, right? Can you go to the next slide? So the concept of incubation, entrepreneurship, education, and NEP, all of this needs to come together, right? So today, if you're in a college, right, uh, there is a lot of support, as I said earlier, available for entrepreneurs just like you and me out there. There's Atal Innovation Mission, there's NEN, New Age Innovation Network by Startup Karnataka, the Startup India. There's grants by SBI or different public limited banks. And coming to the private sector, you have various Amazon gives $5,000 free credits for any tech startup. Paytm gives you a merchant, they waive off the merchant fee for the initial 1 year. The idea is that there is a lot of support available on one side, and there's a lot of talent that is being engineered in our institutions today. I'm talking from a school level till a college level and outwards. There is a lot of future talent or potential that we are harnessing in our institutes and universities today. Now, how do we integrate this and that together? Where does this meet? In the sense that if you need to apply what you've learned, suppose I've seen a lot of startups that are teaching kids AI and ML, artificial intelligence. Sorry, So artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, so and so, for like fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. Great, amazing. I love the fact that our kids are going to be really smart in AI and ML, but how much of that can they apply or know how to apply? I mean, I know a skill, So entrepreneurship is about engineering skills to bring them to a certain potential, correct? So where I'm coming from is that the you need to give more attention towards the ideation bit more than just the skills. You can educate a person as much as possible, but if you don't empower them to think in a way that they're not thinking right now, is you building a generation full of innovators. Today, if I start a t-shirt company and I make money, you see me make money, you want to start a t-shirt company. Why? Because, oh, he's done it, he's making money, let me also make the money. So in that sense, there is a need to integrate the aspects of incubation, bring them to institutes. So today there is, you have various, policies that govern this, where incubators need to be set up in every institute, every college, every place, where you educate people, you bring them to an incubator, and then you take them out as entrepreneurs. So you graduate with a company concept, right? So that is something that we've been working on to integrate, working with the governments, working with various individual stakeholders in this in this entire community of educators and people who are learning and teaching, so and so. So incubation in education or entrepreneurship in education is the need of the hour, because we need to build more employers than employees, because then employers are going to start employing more people. So if you if you create say 1,000 employees and create 5 or 10 good employers, you're going to be creating jobs for about 10,000 people. So that concept being strong, that's the kind of impact that it will create, where it brings people to understand that application-based learning, more of impact-based learning is something that is the need of the hour. So coming to a conclusive note, all I wanted to convey today is that I think we are heading towards a great era of transformation in education, where there's technology, there's policy, there's people, there's educators, students, all of us are involved in this process. And I think all of us should take advantage of this transition that no other generation in the world, at least in India, is going to get. So how do we exploit or take the most advantage of this opportunity that we've got is what we have in our hands to understand. So as an educator, we need to be open to innovation. As an educator or an institute that is harnessing talent of say 1,000, 2,000, it is important to inculcate tinkering labs in schools. It's important to establish incubators in colleges. It is important to have an integration of this with the existing ecosystem. Okay, as students, we need to be open to learning. in another format. Like, it's not about passing exams anymore. It's more about applying what you've learned and creating. So be a creator of something. You feel really good if you create something. But if you just want to stand in line and get a job, that's great. I mean, it's amazing. That also is a necessity. But be a creator so you can get a lot more people into your organization and create more jobs. The problem of India is employability and nothing else. And if we are able to create more jobs, get more people in, and create as good stability in terms of the economy will grow altogether. And it starts from an institute. It starts from here. And the generations that we create now is the future that we create for the country. So it's very important for us to really be very, very into this game and exploit this opportunity and do the best that we can do and think different. Education is one, incubation is a part of it. And I feel like incubating really good talent is the need of the hour. So thank you everyone for having me here. I don't want to take more time because I've been given 10 and I like to finish it in 9. So thank you so much for having me here today, and really looking forward to a good actionable outcome coming from this conference. And I hope that there is some perspective. I'm not as qualified as the others on this panel, but I can really, try to put out whatever I could in terms of giving you a perspective that application-based learning and purposeful innovation is the need of the hour today. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'll quickly answer so that, we can wrap this up quickly.
Thank you, Razi Abbas. We'd now be taking any questions that the audience has. Please type it in the chat box.
So this is the most scary part of any talk. So if you don't have questions, that means nobody understood anything. So it's really, I'm nervous right now. But if you have any questions on how, what do you think? Why should we incubate people? I mean, I'd love to answer anything.
So we have one question from Fatima. How can entrepreneurship education widen the horizons of learners? You're on mute.
Thank you. Okay, what opportunity could you open for learners from a low socioeconomic background, learners with special needs? So there is a concept called skilling centers in different places, like low socioeconomic statuses. They have skilling centers. I'm just coming from that point of view, that they are trying to upskill people from the lower socioeconomic status to get into jobs that can warrant some skills. So incubation or any kind of innovation can also be induced there, where every skilling center can be upgraded to an incubator. Correct? There, what happens is they get access. So we worked on a few models where we took people from lower socioeconomic status, set up clinics for them during COVID, and we got that CSR funding for 12 months. And after the 13-month onwards, they owned the clinic. Correct? So we need to start empowering the socioeconomic status, the people, especially the lower socioeconomic groups, to really look at very different paths of empowerment, because entrepreneurship is nothing. It's not about a business. It's never about a business. It's about empowering yourselves and the community that you belong to. So I would say that is something that would open up for the lower socioeconomic status. The opportunities are plenty. There are a lot of NSDC accredited courses that are available, and there are a lot of CSR support available for entrepreneurial engineering. So I feel, for anybody physically challenged, special needs, every single person has opportunities. The problem is accessibility. And we as learners or educators or the stakeholders should really work to bring these opportunities to the lowest of the lowest strata of the society, so they can be uplifted and go above where they are in the socioeconomic scale. How does entrepreneurship suit the fast-paced economy? Entrepreneurship is the answer to fast-paced economy, because if there is something that is not moving at the pace of the economy, then entrepreneurship comes in to accelerate. So that is, entrepreneurship is everything according to me, because even if you're learning in a class, you can be an entrepreneur. You don't have to start companies to be an entrepreneur. What are the challenges you foresee when implementing entrepreneurship at experiential learning at scale? So the problem is people don't understand entrepreneurship the way it needs to be. So that is the biggest blocker, biggest challenge that we are currently facing already. Not foresee, it's happening right now, that a lot of people don't know what's entrepreneurship or incubation or experiential learning, so and so. We are so used to the conventional form of learning that we have no idea, or we are resistant to change. That is any human being, not only us, anybody. If you ask me to change something, I will never change it. It takes me a while to do so. So the problem is perspective again. So that is the biggest challenge that we see, because results come later. So we want everything. Instant gratification is something you don't see with entrepreneurship. It's always delayed gratification. So that is the biggest challenge that we see today, that people want results now. If I incubate you today, I want you to become a unicorn next year. How is that possible, right? So patience, persistence, and consistency is something that a lot of people lack, and that's the biggest challenge, I would say. So I'm just doing this quickly so we don't miss out anything, and I know we're short on time. What are the
This would be the last question for these sessions. Sorry, we're running short on time.
So I have to pick the one. Okay, I have to do Inkipini Ponky over here. No, there are three. I like your perspective on it. Okay, just give me 20 seconds. I'll just read the question so I can choose which one to answer. So if I can answer in one, get people to see skilled people as important contributing members. I think skilled people are already have been given the classification of being important people in the society, with all of the upgrade, all of the open learning platforms that are there right now. I think everyone's everyone's in that game right now. People do when they can't do other sorry it is seen as things people do when they can't do other things. What are your thoughts? Sorry, I didn't get that. Okay, so I'll make the last two questions together. So I think entrepreneurship is looked at as a separate stream of people. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur, then you're taking the biggest risk of life, and so and so. I feel like there are multiple forms of this particular thing that can be perceived, that it is important to normalize entrepreneurship as a means of empowerment. I keep repeating this again and again, because even if you're a person who's a teacher or a learner, or you're in a job or whatever, the biggest skill at this point for an entrepreneur is to be wherever they are and keep growing out of where they are. For example, you're working in a place 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, correct? You should have grown in those 5 to 6 years or 10 years and then come out as an entrepreneur, correct? So there is no, as I said, it is not about starting companies. It's not about going solo. It's not about trying to be on your own and cutting yourself off from the world. No, it is not about that. It is more about how do we grow from where we are today, inculcate new skills, new knowledge, new perspectives, and then try to come to a point where we can implement that as we go forward. Because nobody's perfect. We all have to really learn as we go, and one thing leads to another. So it's important to understand that entrepreneurship is not something that other people do or other important things to do and so and so. It is your life that you're shaping for the future that you want to create. So the biggest skill is persistence, consistency. I would term that as skill because a lot of people lack that. And even if there's a bad day today, there's always going to be a better day tomorrow. So I think with that, I will conclude my talk. Thank you so much, and looking forward to exchanging more ideas during this conference. And thank you everybody for having me here, Sakina, Kausar, Ananti ma'am, and others who have helped me come to this place and give you this perspective. So thank you so much, and I'll take your leave, and hope you have a great conference and a great morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Razi Abbas. That was an interesting take. I think everybody thinks entrepreneurship is just about starting a company, and I think you've set everybody straight on that. Any innovation is any growth. Thank you. Moving on to the next session, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Thank you to our main sponsors, Efficacy, a biostatistics and statistical programming service provider, a Bluebell School for Integrated Learning, a premier school education group at Gurugram, and a huge thanks to Luvia Bakery for the yummy goodies that kept us powered through this conference preparation. Please do visit our sponsor booths every day, collect the QR codes, make a catchphrase with the 3 words and send it in before 11:59 p.m. to win exciting prizes. Like to take a minute to remind everybody about our etiquette, the Zoom etiquette. Please do be kind to each other. Please Yeah, let's collaborate and not have any conflicts. Stay muted and type your questions into the chat box, or you can use your raise hand button. And please do interact and participate so we can make this a full success. Moving on to our next event for today is a panel discussion on capacity building. Education has radically changed in the last few years. Are students ready? Are educators and institutions ready? What about our policymakers? Today, we have with us 4 experts to share their perspectives on aspects that are essential but not sufficiently addressed in our current education, namely mental wellness of children and educators, sports development, creativity, accessibility of quality learning for learners in varied socioeconomic learning environments, physical and intellectual abilities, technology and infrastructure development. Our first panelist for today is Ms. Sandhya Gatti. In today's world, how can teachers and educational institutions equip themselves to meet the ever-changing demands in skilling the next generation? Our expert panelist on this topic, Ms. Sandhya Gatti, has been journeying the teachers' education space for over 3 decades. She holds a bachelor's in education and master's in social work and IB and Cambridge certifications in planning, teaching, and educational leadership. She is currently a PhD scholar with Martin Luther University, Meghalaya, and the founder and director of Teacher Inc. Sandhya started her career as a social science and English teacher. Since then, she has published books and articles and headed various educational and teacher development projects. She sits on advisory boards of several schools and is also a visiting faculty at Christ University, Bangalore. One of her impressive large-scale projects is the training of 4,000 government school heads and teachers in Meghalaya. Sandhya is a deep reader and a Zen practitioner. She founded the Teacher Inc. with the purpose of empowering teachers to take charge of their own professional and personal growth and to challenge them to think like reflective academicians and researchers. Sandhya's vision is to have happy, highly effective teachers, self-directed, happy learners in all Indian schools. The next topic is on mental health. Mental health made a slow start in gaining recognition in India. The pandemic made the importance of mental well-being painfully obvious, especially in children who are undoubtedly the worst affected in this pandemic. Srirangam Bhavna, a gold medalist in psychology, is here to tell us about how we can incorporate mental wellness, empathy, and inclusion into an education environment. She is the director of Brightside Foundation, an NGO based in Hyderabad, dedicated towards improving the social, emotional, and mental well-being of people. Bhavna has worked on various issues ranging from awareness about violence against women to psychologically empowering women and children of rural India. And now, through Brightside Foundation, she is living her dream of applying the principles of psychology for greater good to empower others and build mentally healthy communities. In her circle, Bhavna is known for her wit and spontaneity.
Providing every child with access to quality education is the need of the hour. Impact of the pandemic further aggravated the disparity in access to education, with many students unable to afford or access the internet to continue learning. Smita Ganesh is here to provide us some insight into concrete steps that can be taken to restructure education and make it accessible to every child in India. Smita Ganesh is the Senior Program Manager at Teach for India, Chennai. She is responsible for holistic development of 3,500 students from economically weaker sections in Chennai through 21st century skill building, leadership development, and full-time teaching. Throughout her career, she has worked to create an impact to enhance learning and development of children.
Sports plays an important role in education. Apart from the obvious physical benefit, it teaches a child to focus, be part of a team, plan ahead, and just let loose and have fun. Amit Manohar is here to talk to us about making sports learning a norm. Amit is the head of sales and operations at Nimida Sports, which was set up in 2019 with the focus on developing sports talents through a grassroots structure and providing a defined progression pathway for a sports person onto the national stage. Nimida uses a robust technology platform that integrates coaches, course syllabi, coaching approaches, process and outcome KPIs, and performance monitoring. Amit has prior experience of over 10 years in the field of behavioral analysis using psychometric testing, assessments, and development centers. Amit is very passionate about grassroots sports and aims to provide continuity, progress, challenges, and a clear pathway to players from all walks of life so they can dare to dream and fulfill their potential.
Anumeha Fatehpuria is the founder of Arts in Education, which is a platform that allows students, teachers, and all educational enthusiasts to share their stories and best practices with regards to education and arts. She has also founded Prisht, a contemporary paper handicrafts organization. Anumeha is extensively involved in theatre as an actor, director, and drama facilitator for children in Bangalore and Calcutta. She has directed and co-produced Talisman Tales, The First Dream. Anumeha has specialized in arts, working with mainstream education and children with special needs. She believes in contributing to the industry by sharing experiences with contemporaries and allows creativity to flow through generation. Incorporating arts in education inspires children to express their creativity and enhance the desire to learn. Anumeha Fatehpuria would now be moderating the panel discussion from here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for having me here and giving me the opportunity to speak to some wonderful people. They're also really fun people I got to know during the dry run. And I'm so happy that, we got a chance to hear Kavita speak and Razi. And I must say, Razi, the topic that if he is here, I don't know, but if he's here, the topic that you picked up and you spoke about is something very close to my heart. And it was really nice to see that the world is so changing and accommodating and beautiful for people who want to approach entrepreneurship as an important part of their life and not go, the herd mentality. Now, we are going to start our panel discussion with Amit. We decided to have Amit speak first because he was the odd one out in the middle of a bunch of women, and we felt that he should have equal opportunities. So we are going to start with Amit. Amit, now discussion is open to you now. As just a quick gentle reminder, I'll be playing the alarm every 5 minutes. If you feel like, I'll just play gently, and then you can, once you're done, if you need more time, you can just let me know. Let all of us know, and I'll allow you to continue. Thank you, Amit. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks for the equal opportunity. I do feel the odd one out here, but I'm also fortunate to have met all of you all, and the initial introduction that we've had. I got to learn a lot of things, and I'm hoping to continue the interaction later as well. But coming back to, and I also want to thank Splendor and the team at Silray for having me to begin with, and coming back to the point of capacity building, as far as Nimida is concerned, right, the company that I work for, the challenge is to be able to identify talent from not only the city of Bangalore, where we're based, but from across the state of Karnataka and probably across India as well. And towards that, how do we set up processes? How do we set up technology or take advantage of technology? And also bring in people from all walks of life to be able to not only impart the education that we want or the kind of training that we want to provide, but also be able to build the talent, right? So my job essentially is to build the talent pool for the professional team that we have, right? So that's the essential thing. So, and in that process, if I can provide that opportunity to people from all walks of life, that would be the best thing that I could do, and that's the aim that we have, right? So that's the capacity building that we are working on at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Amit, one of the questions, it is a question that one wonders that how closely should everybody be working who are preparing, even we are having this discussion about getting ready for the future. So how do you think we can complete the circle and make it useful for all the stakeholders when people get involved in the educational institutions and the industry level experts, they get together to ensure that everybody has this opportunity?
Yeah, so in terms of education partners and industry coming together, I think, and making sure that, people are job ready and not doing a course just for the sake of it, which does not work well for the industry. I think that's a challenge that, multiple, even the IT sector and various other industries are grappling with and trying to find a solution for. And I think a lot of progress has been made in that direction. So one of the quick things would be to work closely. So the education sector will work closely with the industry, fine tune the curriculum such that it makes it provides the opportunity for students also to be job ready, right? And with respect to the sports industry, it's a relatively young industry, right? And therefore, as we speak, the jobs, the roles, the processes are constantly evolving at this point, right? So whenever somebody comes to me, for advice on what kind of course they should do, my advice to them at this point is to actually not take up a course where they go abroad and spend a lot of money in doing sports management courses, but would be to rather do an internship with a company like us, for example, or a professional sports organization, and also look at volunteering for major sports events, right? So the benefit of doing that is you understand the organization from inside out. You get a better or a deeper understanding of what are the different functions within a sports company, and where do you fit in, right? What are the strengths that you come with, and what is it that you enjoy doing within that larger organization, right? And where can you contribute best? And once you've understood that, then you go around looking for courses that help you sharpen those skills. And more importantly, when you do an internship or you work, some of these larger events, you get to meet people, you get to build a network, get to build contacts, and that's what's going to really help you, move forward once you're ready to kind of take up a professional role. And like I said, the sports industry is relatively young. We're just evolving. The number of jobs aren't many at this point, but the more you get more exposure you get, the more people you meet, the more they will know about you and what you can provide, right? What skill sets you come with. Right? So I think that's how you can actually bridge this gap at this point.
Thank you, Amit. Yeah, that's a really important point. Jumping into something without fully understanding can always be dangerous and also can get demoralizing at some point. Gauri says learning experientially is very important. Yes, absolutely. And sports in itself is, such a thing that you can't not learn experientially. You literally, your body, mind, soul, everything has to be put into it. Thank you, Amit, for that really insightful, approach. We'll now move on to Bhavna, and she can share her thoughts on capacity building.
All right. Very good morning to everyone, and I am just glad to be here to be involved in conversations that actually matter. And I'd like to begin with a very small story. So the story is about a man who is always ready with an ambulance at the bottom of a building. And every time somebody jumps, he rushes with his ambulance and he picks them up. And he's been doing that for a while. And somebody once asked him, why do you always have to rush with your ambulance? Why couldn't you just build a fence at the top of the building? And that fence right there is what we call prevention is better than cure, or what we do to create awareness. And that fence right there is building capacity. So when I was first introduced to the idea of building capacity, I was only 18 years old, and my friends and I were working with an NGO where we are trying to build and enhance capacities in women from rural areas and female children from rural areas about violence against them, what kind of laws and schemes are in their favor from the government, and how can they take action. And I was thinking that to make sure that these women are informed and educated enough is capacity building. But that couldn't be farther from the truth. To build capacity is also to empower people to think in a certain way and to take a course of action. So, and today I'd like to focus on capacity building in pre-adolescents and adolescents, since we are discussing the future of education, and that age group is exceptionally important. The age group from 10 years to 19 years, where even from a developmental psychology viewpoint, that is where we as individuals develop a sense of identity, we develop a self-image, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive our own abilities. So, and that's also an age where a lot of pressure starts to build up around academics, and that pressure doesn't just build up, it will escalate from there. And a quick detour from here. I think all of us would have noticed a lot of eminent personalities and celebrities talking about mental health and awareness and concerns in the last 1.5 years, right? So, but that is also a part of the problem. We only discuss mental health when an issue arises, when there is a concern, when there is an illness, or when somebody notable is suffering with a mental health concern. But the work behind mental health should be directed towards awareness, creating awareness, and that should start with education. It is and should be a part of that education and empowerment. And another issue here is we also typically define education in terms of very tangible outcomes, that I see a career out of this, or I see some kind of job out of this. And what we fail to recognize is education is also empowerment. It's empowerment in seeking knowledge, it's empowerment in thinking bigger, and to build capacities in social, emotional, and mental well-being is also education. That's also empowerment. And to ensure that the upcoming generations mental well-being is taken care of, and to ensure that they have inculcated social and emotional skills and competencies. The only solution that I see to discuss here in short term and long term viewpoint is inculcating these skills and capacities in children. So to enhance social and emotional skills in adolescents is helping them develop self-awareness, and that is helping them assess their own strengths, areas of improvement and limitations. And in that way we are helping them gain a sense of confidence, a sense of optimism, and they will thus be ready to face the world with confidence and optimism. And self-awareness is only a beginning of it. In helping them and encouraging them develop self-awareness, we are also laying foundation for the capacity to manage oneself, to be able to think what is right for you, to be able to make decisions responsibly, to be able to have a conscious control over your thought process, your behavior. And it's also helping them understand their own abilities. That is what we usually call self-efficacy. And by doing that, in the field of education, as educators, we are sending a message to the upcoming generations that you don't have to fit in a bracket. You can have your own set of strengths, you can have your own areas of improvement, and you can always be at your own pace. And we are also acknowledging and accepting that each individual is different and each individual is unique. And ultimately all of this means that we are helping the upcoming generations be successful in any path that they choose, and they do not have to fit into a stereotype. And to educate and empower students, we do not only have to focus on building their skills and training these skills. Like Ms. Kavita also said, and we discussed before, we cannot stress more on the importance of an environment that is conducive to this learning. So when we developed a curriculum for social emotional learning at Brightside, we've also come up with this idea of creating safe spaces and brave spaces at schools. It can just be one weekend time for students along with their faculty where they can discuss any kind of concern. It can just be one cell with a faculty member who's known to be very friendly with students. They can discuss concerns, be it academics, what to do next. It can be about if there's about interpersonal relationships at school. And by doing this, we are also helping them understand that it is okay to seek help, and it is in fact brave to seek help. So to ensure that any kind of learning takes place, we'll have to first make sure that the environment is conducive. And there are a lot more stakeholders here that are involved in making sure that there is overall growth and development of students from a very young age, from day one. And I'll be discussing the stakeholders and their role next, and I'd like to stop here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bhavna. That was a really lovely discussion. And one always feels that this whole thing of discussing something only when it's looming large on our head is a general trend that we tend to follow. We only take things seriously. And COVID has been a very great example that we take things seriously only when it's really, really affecting us. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you again with a few more questions. We'll now move on to Smita. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ananti, for that. Smita, you're open up for discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I absolutely love this topic, and it's very, very close to my heart in terms of what does it mean to capacity build educators. The biggest reason being we're here to serve the children, right? Like most of us work with children right now who are going through so many emotions, like our panelist over here shared as well. And our work is in the service of children, right? And my biggest belief today is for children to learn and grow continuously and build 21st century skills, it's equally important for me as an educator to learn and grow continuously, right? Only when I grow on my knowledge, my skills, my attitudes and behaviors, and can I bring out the best in myself so that my children can learn and grow, right? And that's the belief that if anything you need to walk away from this piece would be to say that, hey, only when you grow and learn will your children learn and grow, and will you innovate, will you really accelerate learning as we serve our children, right? And I think that's been my biggest learning over the last few years on capacity building. I think three key messages that I would love to leave the audience with. One is it's hard to be a teacher when you're trying to manage so many different things in a classroom, right? Like you're not just a teacher, but you're suddenly a mentor, you're a coach, you're doing this so many different roles in a classroom, and you need to teach content and pedagogy, and there's so much going on in the back of your head, right? And I think at that moment, the choices that we make is so critical. And one of the biggest things that I'd leave you with is to say that we train our teachers often in knowledge and skills. We forget to coach them on mindsets and attitudes that will help them grow in the long run, right? So my first thing would be, if there's an organization who's thinking about capacity building for educators, a humble request would be to say, hey, like, how are your teachers growing and how they're showing up to spaces? How are they growing in their own beliefs, mindsets? How can we equip our teachers to have a really strong growth mindset, which will really help motivation to, like, my parents were like, you're going to be a teacher after engineering. Like, it's not the most lucrative job if you tell your parents at home that I'm a teacher, right? And I know the hard work that goes behind that, right? So I think the first would be, how do we really equip our teachers with behaviors and mindsets that'll really get them to see the motivation and will that'll help them to see the power that teachers have to create beautiful learning for children, right? I think the second learning would be just how critical reflection is as a skill and an orientation and a way of being. And it's so important for capacity building, right? To constantly think about, where am I today? Where do I want to go? What is data telling me around? How are my children learning and growing? How am I learning and growing? And how do we constantly think about reflecting on if we are progressing towards bringing in our best selves to work with the sheer belief that everybody has potential that is to be explored. Everybody is whole. Everybody is naturally coming in with answers. And our job is to listen and ask questions, right? And if we hold that empathetic lens, can we really help and empower people to explore themselves as they constantly reflect in capacity building, right? And how do we bring that into our training, into our support system for teachers to consistently capacity build? I think the third big piece would be purpose. Oftentimes we're so lost in the everyday, we forget to like step back and say, what is my role as an educator today? And I think kudos to the 54 people who are on this call who are saying, hey, I want to go out and learn what's happening around me. How do I really step back and say what's happening in the ed sector? Who am I today? How am I growing? What are my strengths? And human beings need purpose. It's our innate way of really connecting with each other as human beings, right? So my third piece on capacity building that I've learned is just how do we get our teachers to really zoom out, given the education sector is so complex. It requires a systemic understanding of like just the constant flux that happens, right? Sometimes it's not a system problem, sometimes it's a situation problem. And how do we really understand that? And what's the role of purpose for capacity building in educators is something that I constantly think about. And like really thinking about purpose and reflection and really supporting our teachers with mindsets that will help them to serve in the long run, serve children in the long run, and make teaching and learning joyous and fun, even after doing it for 15, 20 years, is something that I'm deeply passionate about and happy to talk more about through the panel. But yeah, that's where I close to say, through this space, really connect back to your purpose. Through this space, think back about how does growth mindset play for you as a teacher, and really think about how much you've grown and reflect on that as well as I close out.
Thank you, Smita, for breaking that up for us, in very, understandable and clear chunks. There is one question that, comes up for me is, like you also mentioned that, how to keep teachers motivated 20, 25, 30 years down the line. Now, we understand the challenges and limitations that come along with it. Now, people who are getting into this as individuals, lone warriors, how do you think they could be supported, or what are the things that you would like to tell them so that they don't find themselves at, a redundant spot 20 years down the line and still keep the motivation going?
Thank you so much for asking that. I think what I've learned from teachers who I've spoken to or met 20 years down the line is the joy that they see as their children learn and grow. I think that's the first thing, right? Like you ask any teacher, it's like, oh my God, my kids are doing this, my students are doing this. And I think that's the first joy factor, right? To constantly see where your kids are, how much they've grown. I think that's the root of first motivation. I think the second is also self, right? Like how are we constantly, these teachers are learning, growing, what are opportunities they are taking up? Because I do believe that we're not a system where, you have everybody gets promotion. We're not a system where we have accreditation at different layers to say, okay, after this we move up and move up. I do think there are some things at a policy level that can be very different to see how we support teachers. In fact, India doesn't have a lot of states that have teacher training budget. Like very few states actually provide teacher training budget itself, right? And that's so minimal today. And if I were an individual and there are teachers constantly thinking about this, I would root it in, are my children learning and growing? And what are they doing that's making me really proud? And the second would be, how do I learn from other teachers, right? Like, am I networking? Am I going out of my comfort zone, talking to other teachers in other schools, understanding what they're learning? There is just so much innovation that the previous speaker spoke about, right? And am I doing projects that are exciting? Am I able to innovate from my own work? And how do I talk to other teachers in other schools and understand what they're learning so that I bring it back to my own classroom? And I think finally, through the pandemic, like the whole idea of education learning online has just transformed, right? So how do we really take courses that can help would be the third thing I think about. So just courses, peer-to-peer learning, and just rooting it in the children we serve, right? And how are they learning and growing?
Thanks, Smita. That's really helpful to any of the teachers, young in age and young in experience. There's a long way to go, and there's always something new that is challenging that's going to come up, and something new that is very giving that's going to come up. We'll now move on to Sandhya. And Sandhya, you may please speak now.
Thank you, Silre, for the opportunity. I think I'm very close to what Smita has talked about, and that's teachers. So all my life I have been, working with teachers, training them, mentoring them, coaching them, and in many ways, we must understand one basic thing that children spend. When we talk about teachers, it is always in the context of children. So children spend a great part of their life in school under the influence of different kinds of personalities who are their teachers and facilitators. We need to remember that people who are before children, telling them things all day long, informing them, we need to understand if they are not equipped. When we talk about emotional learning and when we talk about continuous learning, Smita has already touched on it. Unless they are equipped, unless they have the knowledge, skills, and the dispositions that makes them, a robust personality, a wholesome personality. In fact, if you look at a teacher's life, it's so fragmented in so many ways, and I'm talking about teachers right from the reason they're there to, I was speaking recently with someone who said that in this particular city, people who become teachers are the rejects from every other possible options. And what should happen is we should take the best academic people into education, because that's what they're supposed to do all their life, with their children. So capacity building, as wonderful it sounds, to speak about, it's a very challenging thing to do, especially when it comes to teachers, because one of the reasons is uh, teachers are never the ones initiating their own development. If you look at any school or any individual teacher, most of them depend on someone else to do it for them. For example, school managements will decide what workshops, and usually it is a checkbox, I have to do some PD every year, so let me check it out. So this is a common phenomena in Indian schooling system, and it's a systemic issue. It needs to be addressed at a very, and lots of dialogue needs to, happen to understand the issue in the first place. Forget about solving the problem. Even to understand the issue, there needs to be a lot of dialogue and discussion that needs to go into it. What I feel is one important thing that probably teachers can do to further their own development is begin to see her own role as that of a change maker and not just a teacher. Look at, if the teachers or facilitators, educators begin to look at their own life as somebody who are responsible to change other people's personalities, lives, thoughts, then I have to examine my own. What are my beliefs? Do I always function from my belief? Because when I work with children and want children to become individual people, then I need to be critical about my own beliefs. I can't, because I believe in something, I can't impose that belief on somebody else. To take that objective stand itself takes, years. So these are the things that, and this is only possible when teachers get out of isolation. Like, Smita talked about networking. It is very important for teachers to get out of isolation, see the world, understand, what's happening around them. As sad it is to say, two things bother me a lot about teachers, and I'm saying this because I've met thousands and thousands of them, through three decades, and they're poor at reading, and they hardly know what's happening in the political world or economic world, or they're not aware, they're not environmentally aware. So what happens is, when they come to the classroom, they come with a very limited set of knowledge. they limit themselves to textbooks. What textbook tell them, they function out of the textbook and not out of the world. So it is very important for teachers to get together, break the isolation mode, and come together and talk about the world, have a discussion with the world, and open their own, so to understand the world as a classroom, to I think teachers should be people who go out and seek other people. I don't have to know everything. I know of a school where children do everything and teachers are they're just there as resource people. So if we begin to understand that we are resource people and not the giver of all information, the know all, we are not gods, we're human, and our understanding and knowledge is as limited as anybody else. So where do we rely on for more? We rely on the world. We go out into the world, and so teachers should be people of the world. They should be able to bring the outside inside. They should be able to allow the school to reflect what a society, what an ideal society or a good society needs to be. So these are the things, we really need to, like it's a lot of self-examination, also systemic. I mean, I don't know how we go about addressing it. That's what something, I'm really figuring out. How do we get more people to understand the importance of role that the teacher plays in the classroom? It may look like a simple day-to-day interaction, but it's not that simple. It's a very complex process. So if we the other thing is, one of the things Smita brought up is promotion of teachers, and I agree. There may not be much in terms of promoting as in levels to move up, but the teachers are promoters of their own self. They can, and to monetize that, to first of all understand that today especially education has so many specialization. Assessment is a specialization, inclusion is specialization, special education is specialization, curriculum development, content development is specialization, writing plan. I made money writing plans, like for big companies. So if we master at least one or two aspects of teaching and learning or whatever practice or leadership, I think there is scope to do more. There is scope to go out. Like Razi said, entrepreneurship is a mindset. It is something that we need to think we can do. It's about taking that risk and taking. Obviously, it's not possible if the teachers are on their own. So I think what schools need to do is they need to develop, like the place I work in right now, at this Chavan Bharatiya school. I have set up an ongoing continuous professional development process. So teachers are talking to each other almost every day. What's happening in the class? For example, reflection is another word Smita mentioned. Reflection is not just a word. Yeah.
Sandhya, we'll come back to you to
Sure.
know more
Sure.
the teachers.
So yeah. Just to end that line, I think reflection is something we needs to happen every day in conversations and not just in singular modes. And that's where I think capacity really starts building up within a teacher.
Absolutely. And we have to, Sandhya, thank you for that, because, as you were speaking, I was realizing that's a very sensitive approach to, teachers as well. We often forget about teachers because we are so focused on children. Teachers get sidelined, whereas they are the ones who are, sort of the catalyst of the entire process.
Absolutely.
And they themselves always find themselves at the at the very end of the gain
Spectrum.
opportunities.
Yes, we're the last.
And it's so beautiful. They this whole thing of limited knowledge, and it's absolutely true. As a teacher, I have also been in that situation, where I feel like, oh my god, I don't know anything, or I don't know enough. And like Padma also mentioned, children are already digitally savvy. We are up till the pandemic, telling them reduce your digital exposure, reduce, and now we are all going to those same children and saying, can you explain this to me? Can you explain this to me, as parents, as teachers, as adults, because they clearly know a lot more. And that really opens up the world, that, instead of just randomly telling teachers to do or not do something, or children to do or not do something, what if we try to get together and figure out what are the things that we collectively know, and what are the things that we can collectively find out, so that the experience is so much more richer. Thank you, Sandhya, for that very sensitive, insight into what a real world, the hard facts of what a real world of a teacher looks like. Yes, Bhavna wants to say something.
Yeah, so I think in the entire process, what we also turn a blind eye towards is teachers' mental health, because the focus is so much on the
Absolutely.
learner's needs, and even research indicates that teaching as a profession is more prone to burnout. And I think by default, we should make sure that all the teachers are aware of what is burnout, what is eustress, what kind of stress pushes you to do better, and what is distress. When does it start
Absolutely.
affecting your well-being? And I think all teachers should be informed and educated about, okay, these are the symptoms of burnout. If I am feeling so, I think it's an indication for me to step back and reflect where I can do better. How can I better take care of myself? So I think even teachers' mental health and helping them understand stress, eustress, distress, and burnout is very important.
Very much, very much. Thank you, Bhavna, for that input. We'll now open it up to the participants to see, if they have any questions. I think you would all be typing in the chat so that we can present it to the panelists. I also have a bunch of questions that I want to ask, but first we want to open it to all of you because everybody has, spoken from their point of view, the experience that they are bringing in their line of work. Somebody has worked closely with educators, somebody is working with mental health, somebody is working with, sports, which is a really rigorous area, often overlooked, and only we wake up again when it's too late and we are too old and nothing in our body is working and nothing in our mind is straight. And like Smita said, that everybody needs to have those resources, everybody needs to have those opportunities to be able to sort of uplift themselves and pick up whatever's going on. Now, if anybody has questions, if you could please type it in the chat. Our panelists are very eager to answer your questions and share a little bit more about their own experiences and thoughts. How to prevent mental health pandemic from blowing up just like the COVID. Oh my God, yes. Sherlyn, thank you so much for that question. Bhavna, would you like to take this up, or anybody else actually?
Sure. I think I'll go ahead, try to attempt, and any more inputs from my co-panelists would be great. So, talking about prevention of a mental health blow up in the pandemic, uh, it is true that the pandemic did not just affect our physical health. There is a silent mental health epidemic that has started, and because the physiological needs and the health and medical resources are very important and they're also in scarcity, we fail to focus on the mental health consequences side of it. So, sorry. So how do we take care of ourselves? How do we prevent is from an educator's point of view, or from point of view of education and academics and schooling. It's important that the curriculum or the timetable is designed in a way that it leaves students with space to learn and also to reflect on what they've done. And one common problem that we've been seeing across different groups, be it students or working professionals, is screen fatigue. It also adds a lot onto it also disrupts our well-being a lot to constantly stare at screen for any kind of work, be it listening to your class, completing an assignment, or attending a test. The way students perceive, the way students absorb information and apply it has changed dramatically in the last 1.5 years, and constantly staring at the screen would also affect students in many ways. It could be physiologically, and it could create more fatigue than that already is there. And I think another way to prevent the blow up is to encourage every individual, irrespective of the age group or irrespective of the demographic, is to encourage each and every individual to seek help whenever they feel like it is required, and more importantly, to stress on, do not just seek help when you feel like, okay, this is my rock bottom and I need help. When you start seeing signs, or when you even notice these signs in your friends, very humbly, very respectfully, encourage them to seek professional help, gather a list of resources that are reliable resources for professional help. So I think these are a few things that we could do to prevent. And I think there are a lot of resources online to understand how do we take care of ourselves, to first develop a greater sense of self-awareness, and also about, and then that is being the very first step, then move towards self-care. So I think that these are a few things we could do.
Thank you, Bhavna. Maybe Bhavna, you can also list down for everybody a couple of resources that they can sort of, have access to immediately for those who aren't in the arena of mental health. If you could just put it in the chat for those who are
Absolutely.
interested. I
Absolutely.
think,
So
and
at Brightside Foundation, we provide pro bono counseling services to those in need. It's absolutely free of cost. We have an in-house team of counseling psychologists, and every other week we have well-being webinars. We have art therapy sessions just to engage individuals into conversations that talk about emotions, expressing your emotions, your own emotional well-being. So I'll be putting up the links in the chat box.
thanks, Bhavna. We have another question, very interesting one. That now that children have all information at their fingertips because of the access to internet, how important is a teacher feeling in a classroom?
I would like
Yes,
to take that.
yes, Anna.
I think there is a big difference between having information and knowing what to do with this. Do with it is another ball game. Now there are two things here. She has, Ms. Padma has talked about. One is access to information and what should teachers do. So I think teachers have to focus on the four C's. I may have the information, but how do I use it to communicate, to collaborate, to become creative, to creatively apply, and how to think critically about it? That's the role of a teacher. I understand that, a lot of children today feel that, don't feel a sense of respect toward the teacher because maybe it's because the teacher is not living up to what a teacher should be, right? So, like I said, importance or respect is not something we can demand today. It is something we have to earn. So only the teachers can earn it for themselves, and that means if there is information given, how do I help children to look at that information critically? How do we help children authenticate information that they get, and what do they do with what they have got? How do they translate it to a piece of information into a life skill? How do they use it to actually access and negotiate the world around them? And that is what the teacher needs to do. Of course, it's a very it's a big thing, big ask from a teacher, and unless the teacher is equipped to do it, it's difficult. So capacity building today is all the more important. That's what I feel.
I'd like to add one
Thank you.
point to what ma'am shared as well. I think rigor is just so much. You can take it to a whole new level if your kids have access to this, right? Like, and in how children really think with their 21st century skills. I think I would look at it from the lens of abundance versus scarcity. And I think that'll just change the way you approach. And it might just become more fun. Like you don't have like imagine children accessing, doing case studies, and then you bring them back, making get well. It's just a whole new different way in which we can engage with children. That's one to ma'am said, right? Like it's just hard to like we really need to equip our teachers to say what else can we do? What are the different strategies we can get them to learn? But the minute rigor goes up, children will have fun, and I think the risk, like you look forward to having classes, right? And I think the importance would automatically go up because they're just having fun. They're pushed to think. Yeah, that's one thing.
Absolutely. Thank you, audience, for sharing your questions. I would like to circle back To Amit, also like Smita spoke about, when rigor goes up, the fun increases, the challenge, and children always love to be challenged. And I am sure that if that sort of, attitude of fun and, that openness is extended to educators and parents and school management and the whole atmosphere of a learning space, then everybody would be, jumping in, because these sentences sound cliche, but they're quite true, that we're all children at heart. We all want to, touch that part of our life constantly, because that's what really gives us most happiness. You must be finding this at the sports field very often, that, this, that high and the low and the excitement. um, how do you think this can be, what is your dream of making this a very important part of the school curriculum, not just as, okay, let's send out the children for 1 hour of sports, and instead of that, how do they see it as, okay, now this is, something that will scaffold and build and much more than just a sports class, because we all know the importance. How do you think we can communicate that to a larger audience?
Yeah, I think that's also a critical part of capacity building, isn't it? I mean, I'm hoping that at least the children get that 1 hour to begin with. So sometimes what happens is, and this is an unfortunate thing, even from a teacher's point of view, that if I have to finish my syllabus, I look at the games period as one of the things that I can use and therefore the children don't get to go out, right? But also, one other thing is, even on the sports side, it's sometimes unfortunate that you don't take all the children, because everybody's got their own pace of learning, right? The children have their own pace of learning. And it's unfortunate there also that, even if you're talking about mobility, you're talking about motor skills, which is where you get, from playing sport or learning how to play a sport. That sometimes even coaches or teachers in that space are not patient enough to kind of take everybody together, right? And make sure that everybody's on that journey together, right? So you will find that some kids have better motor skills at a later point and are able to pick up more skills. Let's say if you're learning football, they get better at playing football because their motor skills are much better. And other skills who's not given the opportunity to develop those motor skills at an earlier point are now struggling with the simple basics of learning how to, kick a football, right? And therefore they start losing interest in sport altogether because they still think that they're not good enough anymore to play sport, right? Because they're not as good as their peers. So it is very important that we take the time, we're patient with kids, and inculcate the mindset, right? And it has to be from all stakeholders in this to build capacity, right? So whether we're talking about policy makers, we're talking about parents, we're talking about teachers or coaches, and we're talking about the kids themselves, right? Unless we actually think of sport as being part of a process towards building a child, building a holistic child, right? I mean, it's just not education that's important, but it's also these other things that's going to help the child develop holistically. Unless we change that in terms of mindset, we will still look at sport as being, just something that we need to have, which is good to have, right? But not important enough, right? And it comes back to even mental health. You're taking a break from something that you're doing a majority of your time, brings you back refreshed to tackle those things, and take on these subjects, in a much more refreshed manner. So yeah, I think I'm hoping that there's more importance allocated and from a fun point of view towards sport, and that's what I think.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amit, for sharing that. I just add a sentence that being a performing arts specialist, I find myself in a similar boat as Amit many times, and it's very important to balance out the scales between academics and arts and sports and deep thinking, immersive learning experiences, so that we can all feel that yes, we are we are contributing equally, it's being received equally, and children have the best of every possible exposure that they are being provided by their parents, their educators, their community, because after all, it does take a village to raise a single child. Thank you everybody for sharing such beautiful and important points. I'm sure that the audience will be having many more questions. I think you all will have the opportunity to type it in chat, or I think through Silray Connect later with the panelists if you wish to take the discussion forward. So thank you everyone. I'll be closing up this discussion now, and over to Aparna or the
Thank
MCs
you.
actually.
Thank you, Anameha, for beautifully moderating the session. And thank you, panelists, for giving us such a thought-provoking conversation on capacity building in all aspects. We will have opportunities for the interaction a little later, so the audience can have like a one-on-one with each panelist later. We would like to have a short poll now to see what the audience is feeling so far. We'd like a mid-session feedback. I think a poll should have popped up for you guys as well.
May I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
There was an interesting question. What would a capable teacher look like in 2030? It is really, it's ticking my brain so much. I think a capable teacher will not look like a teacher. That I have a feeling that we should stop being teachers so much, and we should just stop being teachers. We really can't teach anything. We can only help people learn. So if we understand that, a capable teacher would be somebody who can help everybody learn.
Learn to learn.
Without having to tell. So I guess that what it. Yeah, I agree. Anumeha, I agree. I think teachers and learners are co-creators of knowledge. So to work together as co-creators of knowledge is what an efficient teacher would do.
Okay, moving on to our next event. Now that we have heard from our experts, let's hear what the thoughts of our children on the future of education. Our next event for the day is Soapbox Talks. We have a great lineup of orators who would be presenting an impactful speech for our Soapbox Talks. This is a rapid round. Each will share their view for 3 minutes. Over to you, Rama.
So our first speaker for today is Ishan Iyer. Ishan, the stage is yours. I'm starting your timer.
Okay. A very good morning to all. I am Ishan Iyer and I will be talking about future of education. I would like to start with a quote. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare it for today, by Malcolm X. Last 2 years, during the pandemic, we have been using many digital platforms and and technology for education to make teaching and learning easier and more effective. I would like to put forward my view on this as a student who is the receiver of education. First, I would like to talk about artificial intelligence or AI. We can use this to help teachers who can record their teachings in a chip that can be inserted in the bot. The bot will then present the content to us as a 3D hologram of animation, and that will appear before us as if we are seeing the real thing in front of our eyes with the required explanation. Second, virtual reality can also be introduced with the help of VR headsets and optical projectors, where the students get the real look and feel of the place and can learn, ask questions, and get their doubts clarified. Thirdly, ebooks can be made available to read and audible books to listen to at the same time. Crazy, right? Well, let me explain to you how this would work. All the content of a normal book can be heard by clicking a button at the end of the page. The whole narration of the book will be read out loud, and this will enhance the learning experience. Don't you think this is interesting? This will also help me to learn from wherever I want to. These are my recommendations that would make learning more interactive and fun. Thank you.
That was a great vision, Ishan. Moving on to the next speaker, Siddharth Sridhar. Siddharth, you can start.
Okay, ma'am, just 1 second.
Sure.
I'm just adjusting my camera. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Hello, I'm Siddharth Sridhar. Recently, no, I'll start again. Hello, I'm Siddharth Sridhar. I am going to talk about future of education and how I think it should be. Recently, the pandemic started, so the school opened virtual school. In offline classes, classes that include school kept no. In offline classes, the classes would not have any breaks, but only with recess, lunch, and breakfast. In offline classes that include school kept continuously with short breaks, about 5 to 10 minutes, will help in saving time to do something else. Children would like to play, rest, or even eat snacks in between the big breaks in the classes. Having classes and playing in between would be annoying for them. They may say, I want more time to play, which includes my classmates or any of my friends too, me also sometimes, which postpones future events. Classes kept about 15 to 20 minutes will decrease the amount of getting bored of the same lectures too. This will help in playing and education time equal. Thank you.
That was very nice. Next speaker, Veer Akshar. Veer? Veer Akshar, you can unmute and start your presentation.
Okay. Hello everyone. I am Akshar and I'm 10 years old and I'm going to talk about rethinking classrooms. Would you like going to a normal school or going to a fun school with many amazing activities? I'm pretty sure you all would like a much fun school. So these are some ideas I could think of to make school much fun. The first thing in schools that could change a lot is they could teach lessons and give homeworks in a fun way. This could include lots of puzzles and games. In subjects like science, teachers can show us experiments and also let us do the experiments too in a lab more often. In maths, they can teach the concepts in the form of puzzles and riddles. Schools can also include more subjects like life skills, personal finance, etc. These subjects are very useful, but they are not taught in most of the schools. Teachers can let students choose what homeworks they want and what activities they want for each of the lessons. In the middle of classes, there can be some small breaks where students can get up and move. This will help avoiding boredom and make students more interested. And also, in many schools, there is very less playing time and a lot of study. This can also be changed by increasing playing time with friends in school. All these changes make school more fun. Thank you all for listening to my ideas. Have a great day.
Thank you, Veer. There was definitely there was a lot of good suggestions. Next up, we have Prema. Prema, can you please unmute and start? Prema?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead,
Ma'am,
unmute.
am I audible now?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Go ahead, please start.
I am B. Prema, currently pursuing my MH Special Education. The topic which I have chosen is accessibility, diversity, and inclusion. We could see in many places, inclusion is still lacking. So it may be due to the attitude of teachers. I would like to mention 4 points. That is learning environment, relationship built, and the instructional method which is offered for the children. So how and we meet these diversified needs that simplify the way they learn or the way we teach to them. Next, time management is most important thing for them, which they need a lot of time to understand even a simple concept. Teach them what is change actually. We all know that change is a thing which does not change. So, and for children with disability, it is the main term to learn what is change in their life also. Who are they and what is different in them. Always we should make everyone, not only the children with disabilities, everyone aware that they are not disabled. They have different abilities than us. And they are unique like us. We all know that each and everybody is unique in talent, reading, learning in every way. So we should make them also understand. Inclusion should not be seen or viewed as a separate different thing. It should be viewed as a different ability and a unique talent in them. We should not separate them from us. We should give time for them, make them one among us, give them equal opportunities and equitable opportunities at all places. So this can be met only when the people think in a diverse point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Prema. Next up is Parth Varandani.
Parth, we can't hear you. Parth, can you say something? We can't hear you.
Parth, do you want to try moving the headset once I was speaking?
Try taking and speaking.
I think he's gone offline. Let's have one of our co-founders, Anandi, give us a few comments on the soapbox stuff.
Thanks, Rama. I think it was clear. It was Thanks everyone. Thanks all the soapbox speakers. I think Parth had some issue. Hopefully he will join us back and we'll get to hear his thoughts as well. It was very important for us to hear thoughts what the students are thinking right now, and it's really interesting to hear something as simple as having shorter break times to envisioning a future wherein there's a lot of technology being used. And Prema's point about inclusion was fantastic, and it's an important point to view inclusion as something that is normal and not an additional thing. Thanks, Prema, for that. It was amazing to hear all the participants speak about this. And as educators and leaders, school leaders, it is very essential to keep in mind what the students community is thinking about when we are envisioning education. And these are the students who are probably going to be the future teachers, like what Sandhya said, who would not look like a teachers, and they are doing their job right away, right today. And it's very, very fantastic to hear. Thanks so much for all the enthusiasm that all of you showed, Siddharth, Ishan, Parth, Prema, and Akshar. It was lovely, lovely to hear you. And of course, Akshar gave really practical tips that we can follow right now, and we'll all take it in, Akshar. Thanks for them. Thank you. Over to you, Rama.
Thank you, Anandi. So we're moving on to our interaction session. From here?
Yes.
We have created breakout rooms to provide an opportunity for our audience members to interact with the speakers. So each of the speakers who are here today are going to have their own breakout room, and you can join whichever breakout room you want. And you may ask them the questions, and you can, of course, when you're done asking the question, you may exit the breakout room and come back to the main session. Here we will be screening a short movie called 1,000 Starfish. This movie it's to create an awareness about autism. The creator, Mitra for Life, is a non-profit organization which empowers autistic and special needs kids to be independent and socialize with their peers. They use a holistic community-based approach. Mitra for Life is the brainchild of Dr. Madhuri Vaidhyeshwar, a homeopathic specialist in pediatric neurodevelopmental disorders. Mitra for Life was born with the belief that social change is the key to empowering youngsters with special needs. Please do join our breakout room of your choice. And those of you who are staying here, please enjoy the movie.
So there was a boy who was running across the shore of a beach where thousands of starfish were washed ashore. In the distance, he sees an old man bending down, picking up a starfish and throwing it back into the sea. And so what he does is that he runs up to this old man and says, "Hey, grandpa, you know you can't make a difference to each and every one of them, right?" And so the grandpa simply bends down, picks up a starfish and throws it back into the sea and says, "Hey, I at least made a difference to that one."
Sketching t-shirt again.
Yeah, this looks like Kashmir, no? Because there are tall trees.
Yeah, Kashmir. There's Jammu and Kashmir. Soldiers are there, BSF soldiers.
Yes, yes.
He's a 23-year-old boy, okay, and he's extremely friendly and talkative. He loves meeting people. He is actually a people's person. He loves singing. He loves appreciation. I sometimes feel maybe in his previous birth he was some stage personality, because the moment he is put on the spot and with people looking at him and watching him, is like completely himself. He's not at all uncomfortable, or he doesn't have the stage fright or anything like that from the beginning. Apart from singing, he's extremely fond of cycling. So he cycles every day around 10 kilometers and he goes on his own on the main road.
चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसे गगन के तले जहां गम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो बस प्यारी प्यार पले एक ऐसे गगन के तले सूरज की पहली किरण से आशा का सवेरा जागे.
He is verbal, but being verbal brings other kind of challenges, like he doesn't know his social boundaries. So people encourage him initially, and then when he starts crossing that social boundary, it is very uncomfortable for them. But he doesn't get the signal very clear that initially everything was okay, they were talking to me, they were calling me to their house, and why one day they're not okay with that.
Autism is a lifelong developmental disability that affects how people understand things and interact and communicate with others. Autism affects everyone differently, and they can have a varying degree of difficulties. People with autism may have challenges with social skills, speech, repetitive behaviors, and some with learning. They may have difficulties communicating and interacting with others. They may face high anxiety levels in social situations. What may seem like a small issue to you and me may cause distress to them. They may need time to process information like questions or instructions.
It is really very difficult because being an over-friendly child and loving interaction, people initially go for the face value, okay, Papa, he's very sweet, and they'll talk to him, and then one fine day they realize that it's not okay, and sometimes being an adult now, he might ask some awkward questions. So which puts them on the spot, they don't know how to react, and it's not that they are not to be blamed either, because they have never handled a situation like this.
When you meet a person with autism, you may want to interact and you may not know what to do. Each person has their own way and pace of communication. So in your conversations with them, say something and give them some time to respond. They may not pick up facial expressions or body language, like when people are angry or irritated. So say things openly and clearly, and give them space if you find them upset or overwhelmed.
Siddhartha lives in my neighborhood. I got to know him when we started the Mitra programs. What we have come to realize in our interaction with him is it is important to treat them as adults and maintain boundaries which help them interact better.
People should appreciate him, people should acknowledge him. So that is what he looks for always. I mean, acceptance, of course, and he very well understands that he's different, but what he's looking for is acceptance in every corner. Okay, and which car you like the most?
I like Mahindra Scorpio.
Scorpio like the best?
Yeah, it's my red car. This in future this car I want to buy my own car, big Scorpio.
And then what you'll do with Scorpio?
I will go to Smita ma'am's house and show my new car. I will show it to everybody in 25th Main Road, my new car.
Okay, and then?
Then I will go for long drive. I will go to Mysore. I will take you in my car also, Mysore.
Okay. And do you like pencil sketching, Siddharth?
Yes, very much I like it.
Is it? Why?
Because it calms me.
And recently in Mitra for Life, sketching he does, it was printed on the t-shirt and went for a sale, and that really made him very proud, and now he looks forward to this sharing things, and he asked me then when again are my t-shirts going to be sold, and he earned a small amount out of it, and when I told him that this much money you have received and come we'll go out and eat. So we ate with his money also.
We are the answer to questions like, what does a teenager with autism or special needs do on a weekend? Do they have an opportunity to hang out with friends? Can they go to the park or a mall on their own with friends like any other teenager? These are the opportunities Mitra for Life creates. Our USP is social inclusion and encouraging peer interaction. There is one volunteer for every one of our youngsters. We ensure a good ratio of special needs youth and volunteers for meaningful interactions. In the past year, all our programs have run online, bringing great respite to families with teenagers and youngsters.
We conceptualize our programs with a lot of thought and curate experiences that are new, refreshing and exciting for our youngsters. They don't get a chance to go out on their own. It could be a trekking event or a farm visit or even a camping experience. There's so much for the special needs youngsters to experience in a group. These are some of the inclusive events we plan with our youth volunteers, allowing them to mingle and have fun together.
Mitra for Life. Mitra for Life has been like a backbone to us. He has evolved as a person, holistically being with them, because the programs they plan, the outings they do, it is so focused on accepting them the way they are, bringing in college volunteers, bringing in people who don't judge them for anything, and they are extremely comfortable wherever they go with them. Everything is taken care by Mitra for Life, and they are like a lifeline to me in Bangalore, where I have very limited number of people whom I can trust and trust with my son.
Devesh born in 2003, and he was first child, and when he started growing, we observed little bit differences compared to the other children's. It got diagnosed like ASD with ADHD. Like what to do next, like what are the things we have to do from our side, like he has to live independently in the society. He didn't have the sitting patience. He was like flapping hands like this, and always like it is like every 30 seconds he used to flap hands. Then we thought like how to get the sitting patience for him to sit in one class or like to anywhere to do any activity. So then we decided to put him into the music, because we observed that he used to listen to the TV advertisements, and then he used to sing in the same slang, and then he used to read the shlokas, and once he read the shlokas and once he listen whoever is singing the shlokas used to repeat like in the same slang.
Shiva Shambho Shri Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Shri Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Shri Marakoti Sundara Prabho Shri Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Shri Marakoti Sundara Prabho Shri Mahadeva Shiva Shambho.
She started teaching the small krutis to him, small devotional songs and all. He used to pick those things bit early compared to the other students, and whatever she taught in the last class, in the next class he used to tell in the same without any mistakes. And for tabla, so when he was a child, he didn't have the motor skills, so and he used to feel difficulty in writing, holding the pen and all, positions and all. For that, what we thought, we will put him into tabla or mridangam. Myself and my wife both are not from the music background, so we started digging the songs, ragas, all those things, what is required. And when they say bhava, how it has to come from the nabi, so those kind of things we experimented first. And while he is singing, while doing the daily practice, and whenever he lacks in those things, we are teaching him. He is a foodie, okay, and he started, he shown the interest in cooking. Now he started cooking small things at home, and he serves after preparing any dish, he loves to serve those things to others' plates.
Hey, lunch is all done.
Okay, this? Okay.
Yeah. Sit for lunch, Mark.
Yes.
Nana arranged sets on lunch today. See,
Yeah. Looks yummy, smells good.
ಅವನಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕಲರ್ ಬರಬೇಕು, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಕಲರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಇದ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಯಾಕೆ ಕಲರ್ ಹಿಂಗಿದೆ ಇವತ್ತು.
I think it in this way, even so-called neurotypicals, we also have some skills and challenges. In the same way, he has also strengths and challenges. So main thing for them is emotional regulations, social communication and emotional regulations will be problem for them. Means to say that they can't understand it, but in a different way they'll do it.
You're saying you only need it?
No, yeah, if I give it full to you only, then I won't.
Don't give me full, give me little. Will you give me few seeds? Will you give?
This much is there, no? In this you can give half of.
Will you share?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take little and go.
Yeah.
And I will do the same thing and send pictures to you. Okay?
Yeah.
He likes to talk with people, love to move with the people. So there when he gets, if he's more happy also, he can't control his emotions, and if he's upset also, he can't control his emotions. During that time, it becomes difficult for him to handle the situations. We have tried like taking that same situation and we are acting it out and we are helping him in that way.
And gardening, like we are keeping like a alternative for the music. So whenever he doesn't get the chance to sing, or like whenever he is getting the leisure time, like to spend his leisure time, we are started the gardening as well.
ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಇದು ಸಬ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬೀಜ ನಾವೇ ಮಾಡಿರೋದಿದು ಪಾಟಿಂಗ್ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ರೆಡಿಮೇಡ್ ಬೈ ಆ್ಯಡಿಂಗ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಪ್ರಪೋರ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್, ಕೋಕೋಪೀಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೆನ್ಯೂರ್. ದಿಸ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ಡ್. Leveling the potting mix so that we have to put the seeds. Now I am sowing the sabsige seeds. It will germinate after 5 to 7 days.
Once you connect with the child, then try to identify their interests, their challenges, and then in case of Devesh also we did the same thing. And you have to provide a lot of opportunities, expose them, give time to them. You also take some time slowly. If you go through it, then slowly we can understand what is their strengths, and if you work on that, you will get some good results.
The essence of what we do at Mitra for Life is unlabeling and providing equal opportunity to be who they are. There is no label of autism, just real people with a chance for being accepted for who they are.
A friend for life. So it is a friend for him now. So since he is involving in some of the workshops or activities by weekly, twice or thrice, so he will wait for that time. So my friends will come, I will talk with them, okay, I will share the things with them whatever I have done. After 16 years, since they are into the adolescence age, so their way of thinking is a bit different, and how others see this type of children are bit different. So in this age they need a good friends. I feel Mitra for Life is doing a good job like in bringing this type of children together, so that they will get, at least they will also feel like they are not like they are not isolated.
Our belief in the positive impact of our programs is further strengthened by the feedback we receive from our parents. When the families experience the differences themselves, there is no better seal of assurance.
As Devesh says, Mitra for Life is friend for life. I would like to say it's a hope for special need, not only for special need children, also for the families like parents. It's giving a lot of support and strength, a family kind of atmosphere when we go attend the sessions, share our experiences, what are others from other parents also. So, like it's like we are all traveling in the same boat, kind of security we'll get it.
Our parent support is about keeping the parents motivated and creating a safe and sensitive space for them to share their experiences. We have life coaches and motivational trainers who work with parents to help them focus on the strengths of the child to create opportunities.
I would also like to talk about parent support group, which Mitra for Life initiated, where we parents, we share our challenges with each other. Sometimes a parent comes with a solution, or sometimes we even share our experience, our journey, which other parents are motivated with, and like they also start working towards the same cause and same reason, and what has worked for me might work for another person also. So we share and we talk about it also, and also giving support, moral support and encouragement to each other. If Mitra for Life was not there, we would not have met as parents, but because of they conducted programs where we could meet, share, even rejuvenate ourselves. There used to be dance sessions for us and a lot of eating and different games where we rejuvenated as a parent, because being a 24/7 parent to a special needs child or an adult is not a joke.
Then I feel very, and then swimming, right? I like swimming.
Yes.
Play badminton.
How?
After badminton, I play.
What is the other racket game you play?
The TT, right?
Aditya, when he was born, I think when he was around 4 to 6 months, he used to be listening to music all the time, especially classical Carnatic, and for hours together. And we were not able to understand why he would be doing that. But later on, when he was around 3, when he was diagnosed, is when we realized like there was something very different about him. He was around 4, we started the music training for him, and from then he's been learning. He has an amazing ear for the music, and he can hear and play anything. So that's the gift that, or the ability he's born with. He had this ability to identify ragas when he was around 5-6 years old, and he would identify a lot of ragas. Probably around 7-8 he started giving performances, like very small ones, and along with the accompaniments also he could play. All the ragas, all the compositions, he never used to read the notes for anything. It was just hearing and playing. And he's a very natural performer. He loves performing, and I mean, he's like, any large number, like, it could be just 10 people or even 1,000 people. He just enjoys performing. He just wants to see people enjoy seeing him play and see them very happy. So that is how he, connects with people through music. When someone from Indian Express was interviewing him, he told them, like, I experienced my life through music. He had so many challenges. The major challenge that I always faced was, like, to begin with, like, I used to think with the musical ability, like the ear for music that he had, how to even help him to learn music. That was the major challenge that I had. First and foremost challenge that I had when he was around 3.5. So he would, even his fingers wouldn't go on the keyboard. So after learning what I did was, I picked up the small keyboard that he had and I wrote all the notes on the keys, and I would help him to put all his fingers on the parallel keys and make the sound so that he could play small rhymes. That was the first thing that we overcame that challenge, how to even go about the notes.
Yeah, by night errand. Huh? Adi?
This is a new piece called
Chevrolet.
La Chevrolet Rescue.
Chevrolet Rescue.
Yeah.
So, typical father son. We would love to play more together, but we don't get the time to do that. Either he's too busy or I am. But when we have the time, we love to play together. It may be badminton. We love to swim together. We go and play golf together. We really enjoy playing golf together. And so those are the things which we love. Of course, there are other things which we keep doing with each other. I mean, since I'm so good in music and Aditya is just learning music, so therefore, I think I am a better keyboardist than you, Aditya. No. I think the fundamental aspect is social skills, and that goes with the aspect of autism itself. So that is definitely a point which is the one big challenge as far as Aditya is concerned. Having said that, we have to understand that social skills have many connotations. Some of the connotations is making friends in the peer level, making acquaintances on the next stage. But in all these aspects, he has these challenges with regards to articulating himself to the other person, which he more or less compensates by way of his ability to hold the stage when it comes to music.
Now you stop.
I was better than you.
No, you're better than me. I'm better than you.
Chumma. But I would say the one big factor for me is the way he interacts with people who wants to understand music. Now, all of us are not in the same league as him. But when we are talking or trying to, maybe jive with him or jam with him on some music and all that, the space what he gives us, the lesser mortals, okay, that is so beautiful. And I think that is exactly something which I'm so proud about him, because that means that he's a great human being. And I believe that is more important than any of these other aspects, what is tangible in front of us.
Our flagship event, Unlabel, was an inclusive chamber concert where we brought together young musicians and musicians on the spectrum. At the end of the evening, they were all just musicians without any labels.
माना अपनी जेब से फकीर है, फिर भी यारो दिल के हम अमीर है। माना अपनी जेब से फकीर है, फिर भी यारो दिल के हम अमीर है। मिटे जो प्यार के लिए वो जिंदगी।
Hello everyone, I'm very happy to be part of this unique festival Unlabel for autistic children and children with special needs. I loved your tagline, artistic, not autistic. In fact, I think this helps in unlabeling, removing the autism from our minds.
Congratulations to Mitra for Life and Rotary Club of Bangalore for putting up such a great show, showcasing some great musical talents out there. Aditya, Devesh, Siddharth and Pravalika have performed so well. Congratulations to them, and I hope a lot of opportunities come their way. I wish them all the very best. God bless you.
The response to our programs has been overwhelming and inspiring. We are encouraged to do more, to do better, especially when we witness the visible change our program brings about.
Mitra for Life is building a real-world social network for families of children with autism. We aim to create a social support system of peers for special needs youth. By sensitizing college students and young professionals to special needs youth and encouraging activities together, we believe that both sets of youngsters can undergo a lot of change.
The children were amazing. I mean, they were so interactive, they were so welcoming, and within the first session, we were so comfortable with them. We knew them close enough to call them by their names, and they knew us to call us by our names. And by the next session, I think we were all very, very good friends.
We have also interactions like a sports camp, art activities, weekend dance sessions. And what we saw was the tremendous change in self-confidence and their interactions which come from being a part of a team.
Many of us at some point in our lives have felt left out and we've wanted to be accepted and appreciated. If we can channel this energy into doing good, we can definitely make a change.
One of my best memories was when I was teaching the kids how to play football. It was simply to kick the ball into the goalpost. There was this one kid I was working with and he simply could not do it. Every time he kicked it, the ball would go slightly to the left. And so what I decided to do is stand beside the goalpost, and his next kick, I nudged the goalpost slightly to the left, and all of a sudden it went in. He screamed in happiness and he ran to his mother, proud of his achievement and proud of what he did. It was that small win that made such a big difference to him. And I realized that day that it might mean so little to us, but it means so much to the people around us.
Community participation is the key to include youngsters with autism in a society. And the amazing people who volunteer and support us in our programs are a growing tribe of people who care to be a part of the change. And we are really proud of them.
And it wasn't difficult at all. I mean, it was so easy. They were actually more friendlier, they were more communicative than we were, less hesitant than we were. And it was wonderful. It was so easy. It was so easy for me to open up because they already are so open. And I feel that, I mean, if I meet someone with autism now, I definitely have a very good idea about how I would present myself to them, how I would speak to them, how I would interact with them. And I have no blocks in my head whatsoever when it comes to youngsters with autism.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many children and youngsters with autism with severe challenges who remain dependent on their families and caregivers throughout their lives. As the number of children being diagnosed with autism every year is going up, we are facing the reality of a large adult population who will be highly dependent in a decade or two. In India today, we are only beginning to find the solutions that the adult population with autism needs. A lot of work needs to be done and a lot of support needs to fall in place. When we find that a problem is too large for us to understand, we won't even take that small step towards solving it. This is why today we chose to show you the larger picture of autism with optimism. We are optimistic that things will change. And our optimism comes from the energy and the ideas of our youth volunteers. Our optimism comes from the community coming together. Our optimism comes from the kindness and simplicity that shines through the eyes of every youngster with autism.
I mean, everything belongs to you, everything belongs to me. There is, for them, as I told, there is no social boundary. So there is like nothing is yours and nothing is mine, everything is everybody's. And basic thing is love all. I mean, there is no, the word hatred or dislike is not there in their dictionary. They don't know how to do that.
I can never forget the lesson it has taught me. Each and every one of us have our own fair share of struggles and strengths. It is up to us to recognize this and treat each and every one fairly.
Never give up. Never give up because you actually don't know what potential they have.
850 families, 450 youngsters and 200 volunteers. This is the impact which Mitra for Life has had. This is our start today and we are looking forward to reach more families to make a difference.
It is the individual social responsibility of each of us to make sure that no one with autism feels left out. Friendships have been the basis of Mitra for life. Let's come together to celebrate our uniqueness and our differences. A little acceptance can have a huge impact on them and their families. Sometimes we need a friend, and sometimes all they need is a friend.
That was a very beautiful movie. And like you said, it is just the tip of the iceberg. There is still so much work that needs to be done towards acceptance and I guess just having a betterment of their lives. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning and contributing actively to our sessions. I'm sure everybody had a really great time. We had a really good time on the site getting everybody's views. We hope the session gave you a lot of actionable ideas that you can go forth and implement and make education much better for our children. Please do join us for the next session, which will be starting at 1:45 p.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Rama. Thanks, everyone. We'll just close the meeting and restart in, say, 5 minutes back, and all of you can join there immediately after that.
At 1:45 we'll
We'll start sharp at 1:45. Thank you.